And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. We appreciate you being here with us where sports truly meets that thing called life, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And I'm grateful to be with you up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com, as well as on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt. And as I said, here inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, make sure you head over to Great Lakes Honda City Monday through Saturday for sales and service. Let them know that DT sent you their way, and they have an awesome array of new and used vehicles for you on site, on location at 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard. You can get a sneak peek at the inventory by going to GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com is what's popping. To start off the broadcast today in hour number one, Deondre Francois joining me from the Orlando, Florida area. And you know that Florida is a second home to Wake Up Call, and Orlando is a big part of that. Deondre joining us from Florida State history as well as Hampton history in college. Moving on to the XFL and then life after football. So very excited for a lot of different things we're going to be speaking about this morning, including his recruitment and what he thinks about how recruiting is now with NIL and the transfer portal. So a lot of great things coming our way, including, and most importantly, a conversation of faith. In hour number two, an all-new Bearcat Breakroom comes to us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Binghamton University Bearcats. I'll speak with Levell Sanders following the news of recruitment on who is returning to the team and the newcomers that will be on the men's basketball team for the Bearcats in the upcoming 2025-26 season. And then we'll round out the show on Tuesday, as we always do, with the ingredients to success, proudly presented by Avicolli's. And today's topic is the bigger picture. And make sure during our fast breaks today, you listen into an all-new message from Canine Camp Dog Daycare, a new message from Canine Campground, and, of course, a new message from Avicolli. So a lot of great stuff coming up here on the broadcast, and I am honored and privileged to be picture-in-picture with Deondre Francois. And awesome, and I was looking back on history, and I sent it over to him. Him and I actually spoke at ACC Kickoff just a few years back here, so we got to talk for a few minutes there as we were in the TV room. Now we have a more extensive conversation here this morning. Deondre, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. And what do you remember? And do you remember when those big lights are on? I'm sure it's warm up there on the stage too, because there's a lot of lights going on, a lot of things going on. What do you remember of ACC Kickoff?
I remember from that day, getting on a private jet, me, Jimbo, Darren, and our operations guy for the team. And that was my first time getting on a private jet. We left Tallahassee. I think we flew to North Carolina. Am I correct?
Yep.
Yeah, we flew to North Carolina, and it was a cool day. It was my first experience, obviously. It was just like a big meeting with all the top players in the ACC. So Lamar, I remember Bradley Chubb, a couple other guys, and it was just a lot of interviews, some fun. You got a chance to network and chat with other players that you played against the year previous, and you got a big rivalry with. So it was just cool to just mingle with those guys. But yeah, that's pretty much what I remember, getting up on stage, answering questions, and just staying calm. But it was a fun day for sure.
Dan, you said answering questions, some fun. And so obviously there's some
But
other ones
it was a fun day
that happen
for
out
sure.
there. How did you, when you reflect on your time in college, just what you can say to that effect, right? There's some interviews where you feel like someone's looking out for you, they care about you, they're telling your story. There's other people I think you can kind of gauge over time that are looking for an angle to your story, or maybe trying to get you to say something that you're not meaning to say. How quickly did you start to navigate through things like that, especially being at a high-profile school like Florida State?
Real quick, I mean, like you said, Florida State is a very prestigious, institution. Like it's a big school. The fan base is strong. It's been around a long time. from Bobby Bowden, Charlie Ward, Chris Winkie, EJ, Jameis, you just a plethora in the long line of great quarterbacks. So as soon as I touched the field, as soon as I got there, I had to really understand the media aspect of the game, and IMG did a good job of prepping me for that. A lot of athletes didn't get that coming out of IMG, but they did a good job of prepping us for that. They had classes while I was in high school, media classes. So when I got to Florida State, I was kind of okay. I wasn't too worried about that aspect.
Yeah, and like you said, when you got to Florida State, your recruiting back then different, right? There was not this NIL piece to it. The transfer portal was not essentially free agency. When you go back through your recruitment, what can you say hindsight 2020 that you learned about your recruitment that maybe you would pass on to somebody else who's going through their recruitment right now?
Yeah. One thing I learned about my recruitment, you know, a lot of people say go on all your visits and take all your visits, and I just don't believe in that. Because those visits are meant to make you change your mind. Like that's what those visits are constructed to do. So if you go and take a visit to Ohio State and you love Ohio State, and then you go take a visit to Tennessee, you love Tennessee. You go take a visit to Auburn, you love Auburn. You're gonna love every school. That's what it's designed for. They
Yeah.
have the pretty girls there waiting on you. So you get there, you with your family. They treat you like a king. Every school is gonna do the same thing, and then you get in a position to where you really can't decipher the difference between them because it's like, well, when I went on a visit, this coach told me this and this coach told me that. Sometimes too much information can be bad. So
Yeah.
I just feel like follow your heart, man, during that recruitment process, and that's kind of what I did. So I definitely I wouldn't change anything about my recruitment process, but my advice to someone going through that would be, don't go to all of these schools. Like, once you find out where you want to go and that's your decision, stick with it. And at the end of the day, it's different now. You got transfer portal, so if push comes to shove, I mean, essentially you can just leave. But when I was playing, you had to sit out a year, couldn't go to the same conference. You had different stipulations.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it's so wide open now that if you make the wrong decision and if you do something, if you go somewhere, maybe a coach leaves or maybe they promised you something and that promise wasn't kept, there is that opportunity to go to another place, right? And say, this isn't the right place for me. It's not the right fit. I miss being closer to home. Or, like I said, there wasn't a lot of truth maybe in the recruitment. But there's this other side of it, DeAndre, which is a runaway from competition, a runaway from accountability and responsibility. What do you say to that effect of it? Because the portal allows for a kid to go to four schools in 4 years, five schools in 4 years, whatever it may be. I mean, every year they could be in a different place, which obviously makes it hard to graduate because when you go from one school to the other, they typically don't accept all the credits that you have. So, what would you say to that side of it, the accountability, the responsibility, and the competition?
I mean, initially, you think like, oh, this isn't fair, right? These Gen Z babies get everything, and they get the NIL, they can transfer when they want to, but that's just the way life works. But on a more serious note, I really just feel like it's pros and cons to everything, man. And you got to take the bitter with the sweet, right? Every college player situation is different, and one might benefit from the transfer portal, and one might abuse it, right? One might use it the right way, and another kid might use it the wrong way, right? But it can benefit you and it can hurt you also. It's just all about who's your mentor, who are you talking to, who's giving you this advice, because the grass isn't always greener. You form bad habits by getting up and running every time something doesn't go your way. Back when we were playing, you didn't start, you got in trouble, something happened, you had to stick it out. Like you couldn't just get up and go every time a coach yelled at you. And I feel like the transfer portal, in the negative sense, creates right some soft behinds because it's like it's tough out there. College football is not easy, right? The toughest coaches usually are the top of the coaches, are the top coaches. Those are the coaches that usually win the most national championships. Coaches who are on you hard and riding you and making sure that you're doing everything right. Those are the coaches that usually win, right? So I mean, my take on it is you just got to take the bitter with the sweet, right? It's like personally, you know, I feel like more people abuse it for the negative than the positive, right? The positive can be you find an opportunity somewhere and you thrive, but it's not supposed to be like a free agency.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be like something that you can just get up and go anytime you don't want, or something doesn't go your way. We haven't worked for that ability, right? That privilege to just get up and do something. We're only in college. We're still young men. We have to have discipline, and when things don't go our way, figure out why it didn't go our way. It's probably more than likely the player's fault. Not all the time, but a large percent of the time, it's the players that need to tighten up.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you run everywhere and run away from situations, run away from that competition and that adversity that might arise. That can create some bad habits and some soft behinds, as you had stated. We had a question that came in from a long time Florida State fan. Adam asks, "What was it like to play in front of the crazy fans at Doak Campbell Stadium back in the day?"
Oh man, it was crazy. I remember my first time coming out of the tunnel. My first game actually playing. Actually, let me go back. Redshirt year, I think we were playing USF in Doak, 2015. Everett Wilson was starting. It was a rainy game. I think the rain had cleared up. And that was the first moment I ran out of the tunnel and almost lost my breath just because of the anxiety and just the excitement. And and that was the first time that I was outside for warm-ups and there wasn't nobody really there. And I went back in and we came back out and then the whole stadium was filled up. And that's when it hit me like, oh, I'm in college football. Obviously I wasn't playing then, I was redshirting, but that was the time that it was just crazy. And then um, from then on, it all was a blur after that, man. It's just when you're out there and the stadium is filled, you don't really see anything. You don't really see anyone. It just looks like a blur. It takes about 2 or 3 seconds to really focus your eyes and really start to see features in people's faces. But other than that, you're just so locked in on the field and what's going on. You're so zoned in that everything is like it's like having AirPods in, but like the noise control is on, you know?
Yeah.
Like the AirPods, you put them in and it's like noise cancellation. That's what it's like, but it's nothing in your ears. Your mind does that to you. So yeah, it was exciting, man. It's best time of my life.
How powerful is the mind, in your opinion, when we talk about something like that? You don't have AirPods in, but your mind can essentially quiet the sound in your ears. Your mind, through your eyes, can blur out what's going on there. I mean, what can you say to the powerfulness of the human brain when we focus on mental health? And they say that June is Men's Mental Health Month. I would argue that every month should be everyone's mental health month, but just what you can say to the power of the mind.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you said that because I get kind of bothered by that because it's like we get 1 month to really hone in on mental health when this is an everyday battle, especially for men, right? And being a 28-year-old young man going into like I don't know what prime years are, but I say 28 to 36. That every decision that I make from here on will like really decipher where I'll be in life and the mind is the most powerful thing. I don't know what more I can say to like really emphasize how important the mind is. Like, man, without the mind, you can't do anything. Like, literally, it's like some quarterbacks forget how to throw a ball and could once throw a bang aid in a 10-yard out and a 40-yard go ball on the money, and they get to a point where their mind and I forgot the terminology for it, but your mind can literally make you not remember how to throw a football and throw a completion. And that's how powerful the mind is. And after this interview, I go look up the term for it, but there's a term that, you can actually forget how to throw a ball, or you can actually forget how to shoot a basketball, and it's just your mind playing tricks on you because of your anxiety, because you're nervous,
Yeah.
right? Because you have thrown a football or played or had any game action in so long. So now you second guess yourself. So the mind is powerful, man.
Yeah, and I can actually, I mean, from playing basketball from 7 organized on, I can honestly say that you can start if you haven't been there for a while and you haven't been on the court for a while, as an example. I was like looking at my hand when I was releasing the ball. I was looking at my arm and I'm like, that's not even my form. Like I was letting the ball go and I was like, who are you right now? So you can kind of, and they say that, people say, oh, when they're using an analogy of something that's easy to remember, they say, oh, it's like riding a bike. I remember I didn't ride a
Right.
bike for over a decade, DeAndre, and I was dating this girl in Long Beach, like Long Beach, Long Island area, and she's like, "Oh, we'll just take a bike." Dude, I did not know how to get on the thing. I didn't know how to move it. So I would like try to ride on it and like wobble on the bike. And then I would get off. And anytime I saw any human beings, I'd jump off the bike and I'd just push it. So, I feel like I could do it now. I've ridden a bike recently, but I don't like that people use the analogy it's like riding a bike because, yes, we do forget how to do that.
Exactly. You're right.
DeAndre Francois here with us this morning of college and professional football history and speaking on life after football coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We speak about mental health and the importance of the mind, the strength of the mind, but I think what goes along with that is faith. And what I enjoy is that you and I had the opportunity to speak before we got on here today, and what I enjoy to see from athletes, especially now more than ever, is that there's this connection to God. People are not afraid to talk about it. Riley Leonard is a friend. He went out openly and discussed God. I interviewed Will Howard. He did the same thing. And so I was seeing it in the college football playoff on the biggest stage for college football, and some would argue collegiate athletics. So I'd love to hear more about, your faith and how the heart and the mind can bond together, because I know you wear your cross. I know you put it out there. I know you don't hide it, but I'd love to hear your story of faith, because here on this show, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, man, faith is everything to me. I could sit here and talk about it for an hour, so I'll try to keep it short and not long-winded. But um, that's the piece that makes everybody equal, right? I feel like God is a centerpiece of everything. No matter how much money you have, no matter how broke you are, no matter what situation you in, nobody's better than anyone.
Yep.
Um, and at first, it took life lessons to kind of learn that and really understand what that meant, right? And you go through life and you have these ups and downs and you learn and you realize like, wow, like we're all the same. You can be on top of the mountain today and fall flat on your face tomorrow. So once you realize that and you kind of understand, you kind of walk different, right? You kind of take it each day, take it day by day. Like I take my faith day by day. It's a constant battle. Literally every single day, the stronger you become in your faith, the more temptation comes to you, right? So it's not like you become more faithful and things get easier, right? No, you become more faithful and you become stronger to handle the stuff that comes your way, and it's like building the armor, And I feel like through college, my faith was up and down, and it formed me to have the strength that I have today. Like situations in college and the friendships that I had and the people that I encountered, right? That made me who the man I am today, and that's why I have the faith I have today because of what I went through, right? Who knows if I didn't go through anything, would my faith be this strong, right? Sometimes you have to fall flat on your face to really understand, like you can't walk by yourself, right? You need to be covered. You need to, constantly pray and constantly, right, ask God for forgiveness because we all are sinners. We sin every day. But my faith has came a long way. It's brought me a long way. It's brought me this far. It's picked me up and dusted me off
Yeah.
to the point where mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, I'm in the best position I've ever been in my life, and that's a full testament to my faith. Like literally, um, and it's all connection to my mental health and my personal development, right? Mentally, I wouldn't be as healthy as I am without the faith, aspect. So, man, yeah, that's what faith has done for me, man. It's been faith in football. And sometimes when I put football above faith, faith has showed me why faith comes first. So it's been a journey, and it'll continue to be a journey, to the last day that I'm here. And I don't know when that day is, but he does. So let me walk in that straight line, as best as I can.
Yeah, and you spoke about it. You said, you felt that in your faith going through hard times in college and whatnot. You go to Florida State. I told you off the air, you're highly touted. I knew your name before you even stepped onto the field in a Florida State jersey because of the conversation of recruiting and whatnot. You go through some time there. You got the limelight. You're doing some things. There's a dismissal from the program. You head off to Hampton. You just made the statement there were some tough times in college. How did you navigate through that from being at a place like Florida State to not being at Florida State anymore to figuring out what that next step and that next chapter was going to be, which ended up being with the Hampton Pirates? Just bring me through that through your eyes. And the other thing about this, Deondre, is a lot of people, as you know, in today's world, you probably know better than anybody, a lot of people speak for people. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of speak through your journey a little bit deeper from Florida State to Hampton.
Yeah, I mean, man, how did I navigate through that transition? It was tough. To this day, I don't know, right? I know bits and pieces, and it's all a blur, and it all happened so fast.
Yeah.
And it was all like clutter and just a bunch of gibberish. Nothing behind anything ever had any substance. It was always word of mouth. It was always social media. It was always um, uh, like publicity. It was all allegations per se, and it just came at a time that Florida State, we couldn't handle all of it at once. We couldn't handle the season we was having. We couldn't handle not making a bowl game. We couldn't handle our quarterback, off the field allegations and issues. We couldn't handle. It was just a lot of gibberish at that time. It was Tiger's first year. We wasn't playing good football. Now it was just too much. So at that time, it was either I had to go or Tiger had to go. And it was his first year, you know what I'm saying? And I took full responsibility of all the stupidness and stuff that had happened. So navigating from Florida State to Hampton, it was tough, man. It was tough because like I said, it was happening so fast. And it was like, okay, you dismissed from the program, but then now what? Like, I never spoke to any police officers. I never spoke to any detectives. There were no criminal things involved. It was all a video that was posted and an audio. And it just sounded bad in conjunction with us not making a bowl game, us being terrible, other off the field issues with other players, right? And then me being the face of the program and then repeated things, and it was just so much. So I ended up getting dismissed, and it hurt. It was tough because at that time I was actually in a point to where I was making a decision whether to declare or come back and play for Willie, and Willie convinced me to come back and play. I think Coach Browse convinced me to come back and play because Willie went to go get Browse at that time. And then Browse convinced me to come back. Browse was a great guy. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna come back and play. I think he had just came from Houston or somewhere, I'm not sure. But I liked his offense and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna come back and play. Um, the girl I was seeing at the time, we had cut things off for a couple months and we weren't talking, and she couldn't get a hold of me, and I was ready to leave that situation, and she didn't want me to leave that situation, so she did what she did, and that literally was it. That's all that came out of that situation was a video that was posted, and then that was true. Like, she tried to take it down, and once you post something, it's there. And from that point on, I finished up, graduated, and went back to Orlando. During that stint in Orlando, I had some time to self-reflect, some time to really calm down and take in everything that was going on. Because public perception is everything, and I didn't have a chance to really say like anything. It was just like you're this, you're deemed as this, and this is that's what it is. And I had no chance to speak up for myself. Like people who knew me, people who knew the real me knew that something wasn't right. Like it had to be some false narratives going on in there. But
Yeah.
me speaking up at that time would have been just pouring gas on the fire. It was just so big at that time where I just had to like let the fire go out, pick up and just keep moving. So I went back to Orlando and I started my recruitment process of where I wanted to go next. A lot of schools were talking to me. But mentally I was in such a dark place to the point to where I didn't want to go anywhere um, that was on a prestigious, pedestal because I was embarrassed. I just wanted to go somewhere where I could play football and be just a football player. I didn't want to be Deondre Francois, Florida State quarterback anymore at that time because of what came with it. And I wasn't able to defend myself of everything that was coming at me. So I just wanted to go somewhere to where I could play ball, let everything die down and, eventually get back to myself. And Hampton gave me that opportunity. Um, when I took a visit there, it just felt like I could be normal. I can be just a normal young, college football player, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't a big football school. It was more of a basketball school. It was an HBCU. So the difference between Florida State and Hampton was night and day. But when I got on campus, it was like no one was worried about football or who I was, or people knew, the people who knew football knew, but most of the school didn't even attend football games. So it was just a situation where I could just go and play ball and get out of Florida and get away for a little while. But navigating that was hell, man. It was a situation that everybody is going to go through. Not particularly that situation, but everybody's going to go through something in their life that breaks them. And then how you come out of that situation will determine who you are, what type of character you have, and
Yeah.
what the rest of your life will look like. And that was a situation that was like, okay, so what? Now what? And it's still emotions that I deal with today. I still haven't really, you know, dealt with those emotions. I'm dealing with them little by little every year, and I'll get to a point in my life where I'll sit down with therapists and really confide and let everything out. But it was like, you just got to pick up and keep going, especially as a man. It's like, so what now what? But through faith, that was the only reason. And to answer your question, how did I navigate in reality? I don't know. It was all my faith, staying strong. A lot of people who supported me didn't support me, so like my supporting team got cut in half, and slowly people started, falling off, stopped talking to me, and it was just it was something that I needed to go through, and God knew I needed to go through it, or I was probably headed for something worse.
And I appreciate the candidness and speaking on that, DeAndre. And you said, I feel like God needed me to go through it because if I didn't go through it, then maybe something worse would have happened. Why do you feel that way? What is it? Was it just the, like you said, it was it this the state of a school like Florida State and a football team like that you thought if there wasn't adversity, if there wasn't something that God kind of got you to stop and lean on Him, that it could have gotten worse in the sense of the school you were at and the environment. I mean, how do you kind of, because I mean that's not something that everybody would say, right? Someone goes through hell and they wouldn't say, hey man, if God didn't stop what was going on here, it would have gotten worse. So why do you feel that way? Why do you feel like in a way God blessed you with a challenge at that time?
Because I dug myself in such a deep hole that the only way I could get out of that matrix, out of that sinking place, was to fall flat on my face. And what I mean by that is when I got to Florida State, I was so grounded in my faith and everything was perfect. And, I had my routine and this is stuff that I've been doing for years. And I was embedded and I was good. And then I started playing. Then we played Ole Miss. And you know, then we won the Orange Bowl. Then I was in the Heisman run, talk, and things started getting crazy. Like I started having anything I wanted. I started having all the money I wanted, the cars, the women, and it started to take over my mind, started to corrupt my mind, and I wasn't as strong in my phase, and I was battling with my phase, like I was, and it was like I seen myself self-destructing from a different experience. Like I seen, it was like an out of body experience, and through that whole process of the ups and downs, I always felt like something was going to happen, and I always would try to prevent, certain things. Like I did everything in my power to like prevent what happened to me. That's why now looking back, I feel like it was supposed to happen to me, because it's a lot of things that still don't make sense that I have questions about, and I'll probably figure it out later in life. But navigating that situation, just trying to get through it, trying to grow through it, it was tough. Um, I kind of forgot. What was the second part of your question? I had something in my mind that I wanted to say.
Just that you said that you felt like God had that happen so that things didn't get worse. Just to go deeper into that.
Yeah. So I wasn't humble as I was when I first came to Florida State, and I was trying to get back to that humbleness, but I was just so far gone in the fame and everything that was going on, because life was moving fast. There was a lot of stuff coming at me, and yeah, I just that humbleness went away, and then um, after that, everything just kind of went stale from then. Everything kind of went stale from then, and I just picked up from there and kept going.
And Deondre, you spoke about how perception is reality. And the frustration that I have with that is, I've gotten to speak with so many of you on the show, speaking of student athletes, professional athletes, and I don't like the fact that people speak for you. That's why Wake Up Call is meant for you to tell your own story. It's not edited. It's not cut and pieced together. There's no, mob at the door with pitchforks and torches ready to take the house down. When you live in a world where perception is reality, I mean, what can you say to that effect of it, right? That people may not know Deondre Francois. They know what people told them of DeAndre. They know what the newspaper said about DeAndre. They know the ticker on the bottom line, DeAndre. I mean, we speak on the importance of faith and mental health and being humble. How do you live in a world like that? Because I talk about it too, right? I thought being the bridge between you and fans, right? As a broadcaster, we present the information, right? Here are the coaches, here are the players, here's the game, and we're just bringing it to the fans. We get attacked too now. I mean, social media, you attack broadcasters, hosts, players, coaches, officials, umpires, so on and so forth, ADs, presidents, and whatnot. And so, this perception is reality. I've always, complete honesty, like I've struggled with that statement because I know in cases where that's true, but I feel like reality should be reality. So I'd love to get your thoughts a little bit deeper on that, of living in this world where, people can kind of decide who Deondre Francois is. And then you're kind of like, wait a minute, like I'm the only person that gets to do that.
Yeah. So perception and reality. And the reason why I said before that, I just feel like, just to talk on your other point real quick,
Yeah.
I just feel like if it didn't happen in college, it would have happened later in the NFL, because I was so far gone in that sunken place and lost all my humility that my faith was gone. So had I been a first round draft pick, something else would have came along my path and knocked me off my path, because I didn't have any faith. Right, my faith was just so rigid at that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that point. But perception is reality, man. I battle with it honestly, because it's hard to say like which side you choose, because it's like it shouldn't be, but some things I look at and I perceive a certain way myself.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, how can I not expect someone to perceive me that way based off what they see, right? I go on social media and I see people in situations like me also. So it's like it shouldn't be, but it shouldn't be true, but it is. It's what it is. Perception is reality because it's like we don't know on the outside. We just see what we see, and everybody has their own opinion. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. And my thing about it, in my situation, perception was that DeAndre beat up his girl. Like that was what the perception was, but that was not the reality. Never been the reality. So it's tough in that sense and to think about, but that's why you have to, try to do your best to walk in a straight line and a percentage of that comes from knowing who you are and not worrying about what everybody else's perception on you is because like I said, at the end of the day, putting your faith at the top will show you that nobody is better than anyone. And we see every day in our everyday life through these situations, through these celebrities, and through these people that we idolize, we see behind the scenes that what's going on and the things that are happening and the sneaky stuff that happens. And nobody should be put on a pedestal except God. I feel like that's who evens us all out. So perception could be reality. It really doesn't matter to me because at the end of the day, God is reality and He sees all. Like at the end of the day, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. And to the point that you were making about, if something didn't happen in college and pro, essentially what you were saying was if I keep going down this path without faith, God is going to remind me who sits on the throne.
Right
And
at the highest peak
yeah,
of where I would have been, and I just feel like it would have hurt so much more then than it did in college. But that's something I battle with mentally. Like, like but I just know for a fact if nothing had taught me a lesson, then I would have went, down a spiral at the worst point, right? So yeah, I'm glad I'm happy for the lessons, right? I'm not happy that I didn't make it as far as I wanted to, right? That hurts, but it's the journey of playing football for 20 years, the relationships that I've built, right? The things that I've accomplished, many haven't accomplished. So it's like I take that and I'm good with that and I can live with that.
and like you said, you're the keeper of your own destiny, right? You have your faith in God, but you're the one that gets to decide who you are no matter what anybody says or does. Going off of what you said, there's something DeAndre, my dad, always says to me, and I've been saying it so much. He said, people are going to say whatever they want to say about you, do whatever they want to do to you. Don't give them a reason. Don't
Hmm.
ever give them a reason to be right. So they can go out there and say all types of outlandish, wild things, but never actually give them a reason to be right. You took the reins, like you said, you took some time in Orlando after Florida State, and you decided on Hampton and whatnot. Taking the reins, deciding who you are, and having that faith in God of like, I know who I am, I trust in you, I'm going to go forward. Who is Deondre Francois today? What can you say to taking those reins of your life? You went to Hampton, you made it to professional football, you played in the XFL. So when you were at that fork in the road of this is who people think I am and this is who I know I am, bring me through walking forward past that fork in the road and who you believe DeAndre Francois is because you have the floor to tell your story.
Yeah, DeAndre Francois, at this point in my life, I believe I am like, if I can give you an example, like from teenager to adulthood,
Yeah.
I am myself in like 2015, right?
Okay.
When I was in my faith, just fresh, you know, just graduated high school, coming to Florida State, I'm at a point to where it's a clean slate for me, and I'm like in like right at the beginning of my prime years, where I call my prime years, from 28 to like 36. That's where I feel like I'm going to set myself up to make the most money in my life that I can make. Right now, I'm a financial consultant. I have my own practice here in Orlando, partnering with New York Life, and it's been magical for me. It's been the smoothest transition ever. And it's not. It hasn't always been this easy. The life after ball hasn't always been this easy, but right now I'm a man of faith. Every day, like I said, it's a constant battle. I'm a father. I am a mentor. I'm a financial educator. Um, I am a very unique person. I just feel like I have such a high ceiling for myself, and I'm about to take off in my business and in my practice and in life in general. Right. Right now, I'm the happiest I've been in a long time, and I'm just taking it day by day. Right. My whole purpose is to make sure young men don't go through what I went through. Literally, it. Right. To give information, to be that person that I needed in 2017, right? That person to tell me, like, look, bro, you right there. Okay.
Yeah.
You are right there. Don't make these decisions. Don't hang around these people. Right. I've been there. I've seen it. I tasted it. I've shook the hands. I've played against your favorite players. Right. I've been with them guys. I know how it goes. So I just want to be that guy to let a young man know, like, bro, you right there. Just make the right decisions, hang around the right people, and save your money. Don't spend all your money because I've came across thousands and thousands of dollars in my life, and now that I'm in the financial industry, just thinking about the dumb decisions that I made and the type of money I could have had now if I just done this and that, and just yeah. So I just want to be able to give back, man. Just tell a young DeAndre, like, just give him advice and see him prosper. That will be fulfilling to me, and I can just live through my young mentees.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Like you said, you're right there. You know what it feels like. You tasted it. Now just stay focused and make some better decisions. And I feel like anybody who says, hindsight 2020, I wouldn't go back and change anything. I wouldn't look at anything. I mean, are they really being honest with themselves? Because if you're not gaining knowledge and wisdom, what are you really doing? Are you really living? We had a
Right.
que- we had a question that came in here and from Chris in Baltimore. It says, DeAndre, what type of coach was Jimbo Fisher? And to speak on that final drive against Michigan in the Orange Bowl. So I know Chris is a massive Florida State fan as well. So his question about Michigan, the Orange Bowl, and to go into Jimbo Fisher, who I just want to preface this by saying this, DeAndre, I do an impression of Jimbo, and I will say this about Jimbo Fisher. He is the only person that I know that can talk so fast that he interrupts himself. And I mean that in the most respectful way because that man, there's just something about Jimbo that I really, and I love talking to him. I got to speak to him for so many years, and he's just, I don't know. To me, Jimbo is just he's an energy. He's a different type of dude. So I'd love to get your thoughts myself too on Jimbo as well as Michigan in the Orange Bowl.
Man, Jimbo Fisher, man. Shout out to Coach Fisher. I came from Coach Winkie from IMG and went straight into Coach Fisher. Two totally different personalities,
Yeah.
right? Winkie, cool, laid back coach. You know what I'm saying? Big guy, um, deep voice, quarterback. I get to Coach Fisher and he's just the total opposite, just loud, very, very smart. And, my relationship with Coach Fisher is it was good. It was wonderful. He was like a second father. He brought me in and he gave me confidence to be the player that I knew I could be. Um, when Coach Fisher left, it hurt the whole program. Right? It hurt us all because coming in try 15, we never thought we'd see that day. We never thought we'll be the class, to experience Coach Fisher leaving Florida State. It was heartbroken. We were heartbroken for sure, but that's the part of the game. That's a part of college football. It happens every day. So we couldn't. We had to pick up and keep going. But Coach Fisher is probably, if not the best coach I've ever had, and it really obviously has to do with coaching. His play calling, his quarterback coaching is spectacular, but it really had to do with the way he broke players down and then built them up. Like he had this system of like mentally breaking the player down and then like building that player back up. And then that system formed players just to be mentally strong. And, you know, obviously we were physically strong and fast, but mentally, that's how Florida State made great teams of great players. Everybody would practices would be so hard to the point that mentally the next day you would have to regroup. And then by the time we got to the games, adversity hit in the game and it was nothing was worse than practicing with Jimbo. That adversity in practice, he prepared us. He put us through war in practice so that I remember like when I first realized that, that mechanism of like, oh my goodness, like, oh, okay, this is why you do this in practice. This is why I used to think like, man, this man crazy. What is wrong with him? And then I get to the game, it's like slow and it's like, then I get to like, the fourth quarter and I'm tired and everything is slowing down for me and it's easy. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, that's why I need to practice super, super hard. So when I get to the game, I'm not exhausted. So when I get to the game mentally, it's the fourth quarter and, I'm still sharp pinpoint. That's why he's yelling at me in the last period of practice as if it's the first when I threw a 300 footballs and one ball is a little low, and he's like, "Get it up!" I'm like, "Bro," I'm like, "Come on, coach, this is the last." And then I'm like, "Okay, it makes sense. Like everything made sense. He made everything make sense. Like, he was one of the best coaches I had, and we still talk to this day, man. I just wish, like my dream, man, is for Coach Fisher to get a job, coaching head coach, and he bring me on his staff, and I coach his offense or, like be like something on the offense because, man, I had to learn that playbook front to back. I still got all that knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So, and I know he'll still run the same offense, right? He's never going to change the offense, but he introduced me to what a real quarterback should look like. He introduced me to perfection. He kind of made me a maniac per se in the way I prepared and the way I carried myself on the field. Like, I took a lot of his traits and then I would bring them back home. And when I would work out with my homies from high school, they'd be like, "Bro, you tripping? Like, what's wrong with you?" I'd be like, "Everything has to be perfect." Then the reason why everything has to be perfect is because it's been so many times in the game to where I'm tired, the game's on the line, the play clock is running down, and I throw a dot. And it's only because I've thrown that dot while in Tallahassee, 100-degree weather at noon in the last period of practice when my shoulder is burning and you know what I'm saying? So when it came to the game, he made sure that whatever habits that we formed were going to be winning habits because when the pressure comes in the game and things are flying, whatever your habits are, that's what's going to come to the surface. And he harped on that. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that. When pressure comes, whatever your habits are, that's what's going to come to the surface. I do want to ask you before I let you go here, Deondre, a three-part Jimbo question. One, why do you think he left? Being that class that
I didn't answer the Orange Bowl question.
yeah, oh yeah, the Orange Bowl about the Michigan, yeah.
I mean, that last drive, Michigan, that goes into what I was just saying. Like, I was numb that drive. Like, I was numb. The kickoff return, everything just happens fast, man. And it was such a surreal moment that after the game, I didn't even feel like we won. Like, it didn't hit me until like later. It was just your emotions just all over the place. Like, and that last touchdown throw to Nooney. Me and Nooney, we've been playing football together since we were 8 years old, right? We've been rivals. He played on a different team. I played on a team. And that, like that memory, when I threw that ball, that was a play we ran every game. It was just a normal play. It was just a normal slot fade. We knew they were going to be in man-to-man. Michigan, they were in man-to-man. We knew they were going to have their best DB on our best receiver, and I just had to put it there. But what's crazy is when I said hike and I got the ball and I looked at the safety, I knew I only had a little bit of time. I couldn't just look them off and try to move them because we were in the red zone, so it had to be a quick look. And then as soon as my eyes went, the ball had to go. And Jimbo always preached, as soon as your eyes go, ball go, eyes go, ball go. And it just replayed in my head. And it's like my body just magically did it. And that's just a testament to what type of coach he was. And I honestly felt like I underthrew that pass because that's how numb my body was. But it was like literally on the money. But in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I underthrew it. Like I just remember like feeling like I underthrew it because I didn't feel myself throw it. It was just like a spirit, you know what I'm saying? And yeah.
Yeah, and I love that, and I love the fact that you can go right back there in this moment and live there. Like I could feel that energy.
Yeah.
And we talk about Jimbo, and obviously he has a lot of energy. So it's a three-parter for Jimbo. Why do you think he left? Was what because I feel like a lot of people just kind of sat there from the outside looking in, stunned. So why do you think he left? Do you think he'll ever be a head coach again? And the third part to that is just maybe the greatest lesson that he taught you.
I mean, Jimbo left because elevation. As a man, it's all about elevation, man. You gotta grow. He did big things at Florida State. And, sometimes it's time to go. And right, it's at the end of the day, his family is what matters most. I feel like he made the decision for his family. And also it was a good opportunity. It was a lot of I feel like Jimbo's smart enough to weigh the pros and the cons, and the pros outweigh the cons, right? And it's just as simple as that. Um, Texas A&M was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
I would have went, right? I can't fault Jimbo for going to better his situation, better his family. Like he's not gonna be able to coach forever, right? He's planning for the future. He's setting himself up. He's a smart guy, always two steps ahead. So I why he left, honestly, I don't know. I feel like he kind of could see the future a little bit. He's been around for a long time. I don't know if he's seen the program about to self destruct. I don't know if he felt like he lost the team. These are still questions that I battle with today. I don't because once a coach loses a team, it's hard to win games. And once you don't win games, you at a school like Florida State they're gonna start, asking questions, what's going on. So that opportunity came at a good time. Like it was like, okay, Florida State is what's going on. Texas A&M is right here, teaching like a lot of money, opportunity, Texas players, like football. It just made sense for him in his situation. I don't fault him for that, for going at all. Like, what's the second question?
If you think that we will ever see him on the sideline again.
I hope, man. I feel like I hope, but I mean, it's not like he has to coach. But I know one thing: Jimbo loves to coach, man. I know he loves to coach. I know he loves to coach. I would love to coach with him. Would love to coach for him. I know that would be tough, but at the end of the day, that would be a good opportunity. But will he ever coach again? Yes, I think so. I think he'll definitely coach again. I think it's in him, right? He has too much knowledge in his head to just not coach again. He's too smart, right? He's too certified. Like he has credentials. He has stuff behind his name, right? But yeah, I think he'll coach again. Right now, he's just spending time with his family, probably, taking everything in. But I definitely think he'll coach again. What was number three?
The best thing he's ever taught you.
The best thing he ever told me.
Taught
That's
you, yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
The best thing he ever told me. This is not the best, but there is no best because this is just all gems. But this is just one thing that comes to my mind that'll help me. That helped me throughout my career. And it's helping me in life till this day. See a little, see a lot. You see a lot, you see nothing. Now, in football, my biggest attributes I like to say was decision making and accuracy. Those are two things I try to pinpoint. And when you throw in a football, if you see a little, then you see a lot. But if you see a lot, then you only see a little, which means focus on a specific area, and then it'll help you be more accurate. If you're just looking at something broadly and you throw at it, you don't know where you're going to hit. You're not as focused. It's basically mean focus on what you need to focus on. Because if you
Yeah.
don't focus, you'll be distracted by everything else around you. And I, bring that to my everyday life today, right? See a little, see a lot. You see a lot, you see nothing. So just focus on the details, one thing at a time. Don't be too overwhelmed. And I mean, I could end it with that.
Man, great advice from Mr. Fisher there. Deondre Francois, you get the final word, sir, and this conversation has only opened doors, in my opinion, to more conversations to be had if you'd like to come back here, because I'd love to have you. But the last thing that I will ask you as a father is what you want to say to your child. That's the final note.
Um, to my child, as a father, Daddy, love you. Um, I'll see you later today. Uh, um, every decision that I am making today, yesterday, since you've been born, has been surrounded around you, right? This is going to be a great life. It's not going to be easy, but it will be worth it. I'll be with you every step of the way. Um, I am currently saving money for you so that in the future you will have a nice chunk of change to do whatever you want to do. If you don't want to play sports, that's fine. We can start a business. We can do whatever you want to do. But just know I'm taking the proper steps. And you eat a lot, but it's okay. And you are Bill, but I got you. And we're gonna go to the top, man. I love you.
That is one of the best messages that has ever been shared on this show. Deondre
Yeah.
Francois, my pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for the time that you spent and sharing your story. I'm so excited to see what you're going to do next. I'm happy that faith is the thing that guides you, and I'm happy that you have had leadership in your life to help, and I'm happy that the father that you have chosen to be is a father that a lot of us need to have. So I want to say thank you for that. And like I told you before, I'd love to have you back on the show.
No problem, man. Just let me know. Thanks for having me. If you want to have me back on, I'll be glad to. We can schedule it, put it on a calendar, and we can go from there.
Sounds good. Deondre Francois, appreciate you very much. And thank you for the work that you're doing in life after football and helping people make good decisions with their lives. I'll look forward to talking with you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Coming once again from Deondre Francois here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're going to jump right into our next piece here, and I cannot thank Deondre enough. Like, that got me, especially that last part to his son. That got a little bit of tears coming up in the eyes here, but it's I know when conversations there's I don't know if there's an adequate word to describe it, but I've been doing this thing, and there's just something that I feel when I'm having conversations. And when that moment arises, you just kind of let yourself lean into it. So I definitely appreciate Deondre for being open and candid and just talking about life here. And speaking about being open and candid and talking about life, I'm about to be picture in picture with Mr. Levell Sanders here. You know that this gentleman is no stranger to the broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We are here inside of our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Binghamton University. In this edition of the Bearcat Breakroom, Levell Sanders, Binghamton men's basketball head coach, and we have a lot of things to talk about today. We just got the picture that came out of the newcomers as well as the returnees to the program in the upcoming 25-26 season. But Levell, I was just speaking about having a good conversation, and when someone's being genuine and you feel that emotion and that vibe, I have to give you credit, because one of the reasons why I chased Binghamton University over the years to do something like this is because of you, is because of our relationship, that respect that we've built between each other, and that care that goes well beyond football, just wanting to see somebody that you really value do well in life. So before I say anything here today, it's always good to talk with you on and off the air, because I respect you and I appreciate you and I value you, not just in this community, but in general.
I appreciate that. It's yeah, it's been I remember it's been a few years, right? We were talking kind of behind the scenes, trying to get in contact with this person and that person. So yeah, I'm happy you got this opportunity. I think you're doing a wonderful job. So I appreciate you having me on and being able to tell all those stories of coaches, players, administrators here at Binghamton.
Oh yeah, and I appreciate that, and I'll never forget, Levell, that I came in a few years ago to the event center, and when I walked in, you introduced me to someone that I had yet to meet at the time at Binghamton, and you said, "Yeah, this is my man Dan. We're trying to do some work with him." So I will always appreciate that you were my unofficial agent to Binghamton. I will say that.
Right.
So Lavelle Sanders here with us this morning. We live in a unique world, Lavelle, and you know this as a head coach. You used to recruit guys, and that was your team, right? You brought these guys in, and if they did what they had to do with their grades, and you did what you had to do on your side of it, you build a team. With name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal, every year we don't know, and so now we're living in this world of seeing a graphic like that where it says, "Here's our newcomers," which I was always used to seeing, like, here's the team, and then a school would put out, here's the new faces on the team. But now we have to do the returnees and the new faces because you never know what's going to happen in the transfer portal. What can you say to navigating the current world of college basketball, knowing that it's not just the newcomers that we look at, but that you look at your roster and say, okay, who's coming back?
Yeah, and I think first of all, that goes to the coaches. They were the ones that came up with that idea. So I was like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's an ongoing conversation. Is we met yesterday as a staff, and we were talking about the summer and the class of 26 and who we're going to recruit. And the first thing we did, or when I met with the coaches, I brought the current roster, and then I brought like who I thought was going to come back and who might not be coming back, and all those kind of things. So
Yeah.
it's definitely something that you didn't have to do a few years ago, but as you said, things are changing, and I think as coaches, as people in general, we just have to adapt to what's going on, and I think the sooner you realize that you have to adapt to what's going on, is the sooner you put yourself in a position to um, not worry about this or that, kind of getting ahead of the game. Gene always talks about having solutions instead of complaining about things. So, we try to have solutions. We try to figure out what's happening and how we can put our program and our players in position to be successful. And that's what we do. So, it is what it is right now, and we have to adapt and adjust.
So to that point, Lavelle, when you said, Gene Marshall, the athletics director at Binghamton University, saying, to not speak so much about the problem, but to find solutions. You said we try to find solutions to the problem, not just talk about the problem. What are some solutions that you have found as a head coach to NIL and the transfer portal and in this world of constant free agency in a way? What have been some of those solutions?
Well, I think for us, the transfer portal has been great for us because, you know, when when the transfer portal wasn't as popular, it was hard for us to get high school kids in because, it's you have to have, good grades, you have to have, come from an accredited school and a lot of different things like that. So the transfer portal for us has never been a burden. It's always been something that we openly wanted, and we used to the best of our ability. I think for us, the one thing that we focus on is um, just trying to figure out the type of student athlete that we want to recruit,
Yeah.
um, the type of players we want to recruit, and people, and then we go from there. When I was coaching overseas, this was the same exact model that was going on overseas, right? So we would lose our four or five best players every year because they were going to a different country, they were going to get more money, whatever the case was.
Yeah.
And so we had to rebuild that. You had to replace guys every year. So it's not anything new, right? It's the same exact thing. Um, and so the other thing is, I think, you know, once you're not afraid of having to change your roster, I think the other thing is just figuring out, okay, we have to be able to adjust and adapt to the players we have, right? We might not be able to get, right, um, some of the top players that, some of the other schools might have because they have, these big NIL budgets. Um, so we have to get the players that we can get that Binghamton can get, and then we figure out, okay, well, we have this kind of player and this kind of player. Well, let's play this kind of style, right? Like I think, we're going to be a little bit different this year in terms of how we play, and that's because the type of players that we have, right? And that changes from year to year. And so I think as coaches, we can't be afraid to adapt to. You have this kind of player now. The schools, the Dukes of the world, and I don't know whatever those schools that can get the exact player that they want, then they don't have to change, right? But like the schools like Binghamton that can't get every year the exact players that they covet, you just have to be able to adapt your coaching style to whatever kind of players you have. So a lot of it is just being able to figure out, okay, let's get some good guys in here, let's get some good people in here, um, figure out what kind of talent they have, and then let's just kind of mesh that talent together, and then you have a product that you can put out there that people can be proud of.
Yeah, and you said something, Lavelle, that not every coach lives by, right? Square peg, round hole. This is my system. This is the system I'm running. Whoever I get, this is what I'm going to do. You said, hey, we're going to look a little bit different this year because we have different players. I mean, you're saying something that makes perfect sense to me, but there are people stuck in their ways. I'd love to hear a little bit deeper, you and your staff's ability to be more fluid than solid in the sense of like, if this is our plan, and these guys leave and these guys come in, then let's adjust it. Let's have more of a fluid plan. Let's build it around them, because I always feel like the best success you're going to get is when you look at what you have and you look into the strengths and weaknesses of that, as opposed to saying, I'm going to force all these people to play this certain system. So I'd love to get your take on the fact that you are a fluid coach and you are willing to adjust and to really look at what would be the best system for the talent that's currently at Binghamton.
Yeah, you know what? I think a lot of that has to do with me coaching overseas. As I said, I think when I first started to coach overseas, it was like that. Like we didn't have a huge budget, and so again, you weren't getting, you know, the exact player that you wanted because you didn't have the money to, right?
Yeah.
And so we were kind of like a starter, kind of like now, right? We had guys that were fresh out of college. They would come over and they would play well, and then all of a sudden, boom, they go into another country to make some more money. And so you had to adapt, you had to adjust, and I learned that early on, that it's not about your system, right? If you are not in a situation, as I said, that you can choose the exact kind of players that you want, right? Like there are places that can do that. There are coaches that can do that because they have the resources. But when you don't have those resources, it's less about a system and it's more about figuring out what you have and then adjusting to those players' strengths, right? Like I think for me, the most important job of the coach is to put the players in a position to be successful. And I can't put you in a position to be successful if I'm putting you in a position to play towards your weaknesses, you know? So like we talk about all the time, it's like playing towards your strengths. Like whatever you are good at, like let's get you to do that all the time because the more you play towards your strengths, the better we are going to be as a team. The more you play towards your weaknesses, the worse we're going to be as a team, right? So it's just a matter of, understanding that. Like I said, some coaches have the luxury that they don't have to adjust, right? Because they can get guys that come in every year and get the exact kind of players that they want. And I think the other thing is like the players now, um, you know, how we recruit guys that are versatile and that can play many different positions, that can play different styles of basketball. So that's how we recruit. And so, you know, I think you can find a lot of players out there that are skilled and talented and that can do a lot of different things on the floor. And so I think, the more you can recruit those kind of players, the easier it is to kind of like put those guys on the floor and be able to do or focus on whatever you want them to focus on because they are skilled and they are versatile. They can guard many positions, they can play many positions. I've been hearing a lot lately about, especially like in the draft, it was talking about positionless basketball, and I think that's super important. And I think that's another thing like over in Europe, which what I realized early on when I first got over there was like it was really positionless. It wasn't about you know um, you're this size, and so you're going to play this position. We talk to our guys a lot about the number that you are, the four or five or two or three, that's only defensively, right? Like if we tell you like you're going to be a four, well, we're just talking about you're going to guard a four, right? Because a four now in this day and age does everything that a guard does.
Yeah.
A four can shoot, can handle the ball,
Yeah.
can pass, can post up, So same thing with a three man. So we don't look at it in terms of like, hey, you're going to be a five man and you're going to just be directly under the basket. Like we got a guy coming in now, that's a five man who can play all over the court. So yeah, it's like if you can have those guys that are versatile and play a lot of different positions and guard a lot of different positions, then it makes it a lot easier.
Well, and I mean, you keep talking about coaching over in Europe, and you just described that, like having a team that has positionless basketball and these versatile guys that plays right into Europe, right? Europe and how they played essentially changed the game in the NBA. You got these guys coming in that are playing in all different countries overseas that are big men that should be under the basket for typical basketball, and they're dribbling the ball, they're bringing it up the floor, they are able to dish, they got great vision, and they're shooting the three. So, I mean, to that effect of it, you and I are both fans of basketball first. What can you say to what Europe did to America to essentially say, like, the world of Shaquille O'Neal is few and far between, and the Dirk Nowitzki world way back when, and everything we started to see with that, like this is where we live now. We live in a place where Wembenyama, it's like, hey, if you're tall and you could jump out the gym, our expectation of you is not to be David Robinson on the Spurs. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it goes. I hear a lot of stuff about Europe, and I was over there for 21 years, and so I had a front row seat. And I don't think is what everybody say it is. Like, they talk about the kids don't play games; they only train and do skill workouts. That's not true. Um, the kids play, right? Like they don't play as much because they don't have AAU, you know they don't have high school sports. Like they don't have in the high school that they go to, they don't have a basketball team, right? Like there's no high school basketball. So yeah, they're not playing, but they have club sports and they start to play club sports, early on.
Yeah.
And pretty much every team usually have some kind of youth category. But I think the biggest thing is the part about not separating the players and telling guys that because you are the tallest guy on the team right now, you're going to be under the basket. Um, when I watch the young kids, and I haven't watched a lot of youth basketball here, but the one thing that I remember about over in Europe was whenever I finished working out or whatever, and the younger guys were having practice. Um, it was it felt like the ball was a magnet and it was just everybody around the basketball. But like the person who got the ball took it and dribbled it and passed it, and it wasn't like again because you're the biggest guy, you're just gonna go stand under the basket. And so I think and I think we're getting there now. Like we're you see a lot of guys over here, you know, that can do those kind of things also. But again, we're a little bit behind because they've been doing that for years. Um, and so I think because again, they don't differentiate size and weight and all of those things. They just look at you as a basketball player. I think that's the reason why, they have the guys that are so skilled that are big. I remember when I first kind of saw Dino Raja, come over and play for the Celtics, and he was a big guy. He was shooting outside. He could pass. Vlade Divac and all those guys. And, you know, again, those guys were big guys that, at that time were way more skilled than our big guys were over here. Our big guys were just big and under the basket and being, and then you started to see, the game change. But a lot of our bigger guys that were skilled, um, were coming from overseas. So I think it's just we understand now, that I think that part of it is like, you hear it a lot about being positionless. And I think coaches really want to, train players. You can see it. Most big guys now want to shoot 3-point shots, so I think you have to have some balance. I still love the post up. I still love playing inside out. I still, like the post up, even smaller guards. I think one of the things that really helped me like later on in my career, I played till I was 40. So like later on in my career when I, wasn't fast and I had to post up a lot because that was my a way of taking advantage of like I was a bigger point guard. So I posted up a lot, and I learned that guards are not used to guarding in a post. When you post up a guard, he's not used to guarding in a post, and so I had an advantage there. And so we like to do things like that, kind of unconventional. That's becoming conventional now, right? You see a lot more of guards posting up and wings posting up, and I think that's the way you have to go about it. Again, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, but I think the most important thing is to be flexible, have an open mind to different things. I think coaches have to continue to always, you know, to look to get better and improve, right? To learn things. I think, you see the one thing that always drives me crazy, not dri it doesn't drive me crazy, but I laugh at it. It's like sometimes you play against some of these teams and you see the coaches that are, doing the same thing for 10, 15 years, and you're saying to yourself, like, man, you can't tell me that the game has changed and you're still doing the same thing from 10, 15 years ago. It's like there's no there's no progress, and I think it's boring to just do the same thing all the time, right? Like it's a little bit more work, right? You gotta, like I'm every day I'm watching video, I'm watching us play, I'm watching other teams play, because you're trying to figure out like different ways you can help your team get an advantage, right? And if you're not doing that, then you're gonna be lost and left behind.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, I mean, you're challenging yourself, right? It's more work for you, but again, if you're going through life and you're gaining knowledge and wisdom, and you're not elevating or adjusting, then what are you gaining? And are you gaining it? Are you listening to that knowledge and wisdom? Here with Levell Sanders here, Bearcat Breakroom, and our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Binghamton University on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. So we have these returnees and we have these newcomers. What can you say about the group of guys that is coming back, as well as what you're gaining from the new faces that are now joining this program? Because we're gotten to see them, and like you said, you give credit to your staff for putting out some good graphics, and it's fun and it's exciting, and I give them a lot of credit too, because it built up a lot of positive energy here in the quote unquote off season. But you as a coach know that there's no off season. So newcomers, returnees, bring me into the mashup of this, what you're bringing back and what you're bringing in, and what it looks like for you, at least currently, as you step into the summer and obviously training.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to get these guys on campus this upcoming weekend so we can get started next week. But I think first and foremost, we got some really good dudes coming back. We talked a lot at the end of the season, with guys that were returning about it being their team, it's their culture. They have to set the tone, and I think we have some good guys that are going to be able to not only voice that or express that, verbally, but I think how they go about and handle their business is going to be, a big key factor because when new guys come in, the first thing they're doing are they're looking around to see what's going on. They're checking the temperature to see who's, how hard guys are working out. And this is what I was explaining to our guys that are returning. So that's the one thing I like about those guys. I mean, we're bringing back three guys that at some point in the season started for us. Um, so that's good. A healthy Jackson, I think, is going to be refreshing. He's been working hard. He's slimmed down. His back is feeling good. And so, looking forward to get him. He was the one guy that I was kind of, sad for last year because he was injured and he didn't really get a chance to have a fair shot of playing, right? Just because he was injured. So that's first and foremost. I'm looking forward to that. And then I think, with the new guys, we just have a lot of size and I think athleticism. We're bringing in a point guard. I think one of the things that really hurt us last year was, we turned the ball over a ton. We gave our opponents 142 more possessions than we had last year, and that's a huge number. So I think we could have been a lot better offensively and defensively if we didn't turn the ball over so much. So, I think we have some guys coming in that's going to really help us with that, along with the guys that are returning that I think have gotten better. One thing that I don't want to do this season is single guys out and say, this guy and that guy, because I really believe we need a collective group. We need everybody to play towards their strengths. We need everybody to be healthy. We need everybody to have the right mindset to want to play together and play for each other. But there are certain guys that I think are going to have really good years because I saw them put the work in, before they left, and I'm really looking forward to get these guys on campus. But again, the biggest thing for us, and I think any coaching staff in this day and age, is getting your team to become a team and getting these guys to understand that yes, it's the NIL and stuff is out there and guys are making money, but like the only way that's going to happen is if you're buying into the team. Because I think one of the things that we're going to have this year that we didn't have a lot of last year, we didn't have a lot of depth. And I honestly believe we have 13 guys that can play. And so I always say I don't ever say this guy is going to play and that guy is going to play. Like when they get here, what they do from July to November will determine, how things work out.
Yeah.
Remember last season after our first scrimmage game, a couple guys came to me and, they were asking, why they didn't play this many minutes or why they didn't play that. And I was saying like, well, this is November, this is October, and this is the first time you're coming to me to ask me about, anything, So I'm looking forward to that, but yeah, I think the biggest challenge is to get these guys to play together, play for each other, and want each other to be successful, like not be upset because the guy that's in the game is playing well and you're not. It's a long season. I always say that it's a long season. Things happen. We have. I don't know. I'm just with the staff. We're not set on a specific lineup, right? Like we need to put our team and have them playing the best basketball they can play. So it's not about because this group of guys are going to be the guys, say the first five guys that start on this game. That doesn't mean that's going to be the lineup for the whole season, right? A lot of things happen. You got to mix and match. And then, the practice part is super important because
Yeah.
obviously you want to have guys that can affect winning. We track winning and losing all the time. Everything we do pretty much we're tracking winning and losing. We have our sheets as coaches to evaluate different groups, right? Like I'm not one of those guys, and we don't get set on this. These five guys are going to be our starters, so this is our starters, and everybody else is no. We mix and match, right? I mean, we're bringing in 9 new guys, and so we have to be able to see if this group can play together. We think we got some big lineups. We think we got some smaller lineups. So it's going to be interesting, but most important is getting these guys to be able to play for each other.
Yeah, and you spoke on, once and having 9 new guys come in, trying to find this and not declaring that these are our starters, this is our bench, but to have different lineups and different pieces to it. There's a lot of work that goes into. I mean, back in the day, I feel like people said these are the starters, right? No matter who we play, here's our 5, and you can't do that, right? It's if you're playing checkers, but you're playing chess, and in playing chess, you might understand the first 3 games on the schedule this upcoming 2025-26 season. These are your starters, but in this 4th game, it makes more sense to go big to start off. It makes more sense to go small in game 11. So to be with that, I mean, to go back to your staff and how much you're all working on this, just what you can say to that effect of the people that you have surrounded yourself with, just what this is like to challenge you and you challenge them to not be set on a certain defense, to not be set on a certain lineup. Just what it is for this Binghamton staff going into 2025-26 that you think is great, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of chess moves and chess pieces on this board, figuring out what makes sense. But how do these guys challenge you, and how do you feel like you challenge them? And just what you can say to a staff that is open to being wrong, adjusting, learning, watching film again. I mean, I love hearing this because I'm a student of the game, so I'll listen to you talk all day about this stuff, Levell. But just to go a little bit deeper into your staff and why you put together the team you put together of people that are going to lead this team, knowing that basketball is not simply, hey, we got 30 games and hopefully we have more. This is our starting five. This is what we're going to do, and that's it. To say, like, no, every week, every other day, we might have to sit down and talk about this thing.
You know what? I think it starts with me. I'm super flexible and um, I'm not set on anything. Like I'm open to, I give all of our coaches a lot of responsibility. I'm sitting in my office now and in our conference room right now. You got Coach Johnson, you got, Coach Damani who's back, you got Coach Josh who's just joined our staff, and Coach Tyler, who are all over there sitting talking about defense and, getting videos and stuff ready. And so when things happen, I'm not like, I'm not going crazy. I'm a real kind of mellow guy, and I kind of say, all right, something happened. All right, let's just fix it, right? I'm not, I don't know. We lost a key, and next thing you know, the coach is going crazy, and he's. So I think because of my personality and how I kind of let these guys, you know, I always say this that you hire somebody or you hire guys and you give them a job description and then you let them work, you let them do what they do. And I talk, I mean, we talk and communicate all the time. Our offices are right here. And so we talk and communicate all the time. Like, Coach Johnson and I, you know, we going home, we just in the office all day. And as soon as we leave the office, it's like we're texting or we're calling each other because of, something else came up. Um, and so yeah, so I think when you give guys responsibilities and you kind of give them the ownership of whatever it is, right? Like, so Coach Johnson does the defense. We got Coach Josh is going to be our personnel guy. Coach Marlin does offensive stuff. You give those guys, like, we sat down early in the summer. We just went to a hotel. It was Coach Marlin's idea, go to a hotel and um sat in the ballroom for 5 or 6 hours and just kind of hammered out a lot of things, right? Like talked about a lot of things. It was just a different setting.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think things like that are important. Um, I'm not doing somebody else's job, right? I got a lot of stuff that I have to do. And so if I say this is your job description, I expect you to do that, right? And so it's not like I'm checking on you, but like we do have, I have a meeting with somebody and, like I was just talking to Tyler, who just moved up from our video coordinator spot to our ops spot, because Matt stepped away. He's gonna be working at a bank in Norwich, not Norwich, but it's up in Norwich, somewhere around there. I forgot the exact city. But anyway, so Matt did a really good job of helping Tyler before he left, of letting him know what he needed to do. And today, me and Tyler had a meeting about hotels and stuff that we have to book for non-conference games and all those kind of things, right? So again, it's not like I'm worried about him doing a job. It's like, all right, well, we have a meeting, and I will see if he's prepared or not from our meeting, right? And then if he's not, then I'll say, okay, well, we need to do this, we need to do this and this and that. But most of the time, these guys are prepared because it's their job, right? It's what they want to do. They want to be good, right? Like nobody, I don't think anybody here wants to um, be in their position all the time, right? All of these guys aspire to be head coaches, to do different things, and so you have to do things to the best of your ability. And so I really believe that there's no coach in our practice that is standing on a basket holding up the basket. Everybody's involved. Everybody has a role in that practice. And then, when it comes to players, we talk a lot. Like I said, we just met yesterday about, our recruiting for 26, and what we're gonna, we just had two high school weekends where we went out and we all looked at players and then, we came back and figure out, okay, who's the priority, who's gonna, so there's
Yeah.
a huge collaboration. It's not just a one man show. I could never do this alone. I think there's no way. I think one of the things that I really look forward to, and I've said this many times, but overseas it was just myself and one assistant, and now, you have an opportunity to have 4 or 5 guys, with you that can do a lot of different things, and I take advantage. I take full advantage of it. You'll never come. I mean, if you come and watch our practice and you didn't know who was the head coach, you didn't know I was the head coach, you probably wouldn't think I was the head coach from practice, right? Because a lot of our assistants talk more than I do in practice. But that's because, like if we're doing something defensively and Coach Johnson is running the defense, well, I'm letting him do his job. I'm letting him say what he needs to say. I'm letting him put the guys in position. And obviously, if I need to say something, I say it. But like he does such a good job of doing that and handling that, like I don't need to say much. Um, so yeah, and then yeah, we know exactly what we're looking for in players. We looking for versatile guys that can defend, and then certain offensive things we look for and skill sets that guys have. And so when we go out to recruit, it's not like nobody knows what kind of players we're looking for. We know what kind of players we're looking for, and so when we all bring these guys to the table, and I tell people this a lot, and I tell my wife this a lot, like like it's just this four of the coaches, right? Um, Five, if you say, because a lot of these guys, they go through the portal and they look for guys, right? And so
Yeah.
you think about the end of a season, and we have 6 scholarships, right? Or 8 scholarships. And each coach is coming to me and saying, hey, I think this guy is good, right? So let's just say you got four assistant coaches and they each coming to you with 2 players. Well, those assistant coaches are coming to you with 2 players, but me myself, that's 8 players for me, right? And I'm not one of those guys that I cannot just watch a highlight tape and say, yes, we're going to take this kid.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I have to actually go and watch games, and our coaches, they do the same thing. But when they're watching, you know, 2 players, I have to watch 8 players. So it's a lot more that I have to watch. And then I have to be able to give these guys a reason. And like it's not like, well, nah, we're not gonna take him. Well, like they've spent their time, so they want to know why you're not gonna take him. And why do you think this guy is better than this guy, right? And so you got to be able to explain those things. So, it's a lot that goes into taking players on your team, because every coach has guys that they like. And then when I say, okay, well, I like this guy, I want to take this guy, then we all zero in on that guy. And all of the coaches watch, at that point, all of the coaches are going to watch that kid, that particular kid, and I'll get opinions. Hey, Tyler, what do you think about, Zaire, for example? And he say, well, I think he can do this, 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 that. And it might not be a guy that he recruited, but like, I still want those guys to lay their eyes on the player. So again, we have everybody's input and everybody's involved. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a long process, and that's why, you said there's never an off season, but it's never really an off season, especially now when you need to, at the end of the season, when you need to get from March to July. In some cases, it's like these some schools are starting in May.
Yeah.
You know, we're starting in July, but it's like so like from
Yeah.
March to June, you need to get 8 players. It's a lot of it's a lot of work you need to do, and it's a lot of video you need to watch. And I always do my stuff like I'll come home, I'll leave here, whatever time I leave here, and I'll get home and I'll, be with my daughters and my wife, and then all of a sudden they're going to sleep at 8 or 9, and then I'm staying up till like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. She's always like, "Hey, you gotta get to sleep." I'm like, "Well, I can't because I need to I need to watch this video. So I need to, and so yeah, it's a lot. So but that's how kind of how we do our process of putting a team together. And again, you figure, all right, we say we need like a guy that could be like a 4-5 or a guy that could be a 5-4, and then you kind of you go out and look for those guys. And then again, it's a team thing, and just because one coach recruits a guy, it doesn't mean that that one coach is gonna, be rooting for that guy and the other coaches are not going to be rooting for him.
Yeah.
We don't have that kind of atmosphere or culture here, right? We're all rooting for each other, and I purposely, we break guys up with different coaches, and I purposely give um, coaches players that they didn't recruit, so they can get opportunity to know who they are on a deeper level. So yeah, that's just kind of how we do it.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, and I love that, and I love breaking that down, and like you had brought up the fact that if each of your coaches brings you a couple guys, you're not looking at two guys like they are, you're looking at eight, and so there's a lot that goes into that, and to say I want to take this guy, and then they want to know, okay, why are you taking this guy over this guy? If they're similar guys, similar players, similar skill sets, what is it that spoke to you that made you think that? Because you said I can't just watch one highlight tape and say, this is what it's going to be. Is it character? Is it how they are in the classroom? Is it a conversation that you have with them beyond that as well? There's a lot of different pieces that go into it because, as you know, there's talent in a locker room that could not be good with the rest of the team. And then there's people that maybe have to work a little bit harder that have some raw talent, but they're a great team player. They're going to be the loudest person on the bench when they're not out there. So I think there's a lot that goes into it that's well beyond statistics, which is why I love conversations like this. Levell, before I let you go, we are going to play some rapid fire, but I want to ask you about something that coaches bring up a lot nowadays. It's a simple term, but 3-and-D. And so I'd love to get your take on this and how important it is for you as a coach of having guys, that can hit that three ball and then get back on defense. There's with this 3-and-D moniker, there's maybe a push to have people fall back in love with defense. There's been a world of that we've saw in modern day basketball, especially in the NBA, which is offense, 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 no defense. And now there's this conversation of 3-and-D and the value of 3-and-D. Obviously, interior game is important too, but where do you put that in the grand scheme of things? And when you hear 3-and-D, is this something that coaches are just? I mean, is this the term, the hot term right now that a coach likes to use? Like, hey, I want a guy who's very simply going to be able to hit that three ball, get back on defense, and give us an opportunity to get back in transition.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably kind of a buzzword right now. I think, for us, we prioritize defense first. I think, our first few teams here at Binghamton, it was that. It was, when we took over the program, we wanted to be much better defensively, right? And so we always prioritize defense, and even, more than, offense. And, this was the first year I think that we shot the ball well from three. Since we've been here, we haven't been a really good 3-point shooting team because we haven't really prioritized that much. But I think, in general, I think everybody know you have to defend.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that people want right now is just space, right? And I think one of the biggest things or biggest ways to create space is to have guys that can make shots, right? Because that'll kind of pull the defense a little bit. But I think, you know, you can manipulate space with movement and cutting, which we always talk about. But the 3-and-D, again, that's something that I think, like I said, a lot of people are talking about. I think the other thing with the NBA, if you talk about the NBA is in the NBA, there are not going to be a lot of, and this is what I think. I don't think the guys really, the players really understand this. There's one or two guys on the team that are going to have the freedom to do whatever they want to do, right? And then
Yeah.
the other guys on the team are going to be play a role, defend, rebound, knock down open shots, whatever that is, right? And so when they're talking about 3-and-D guys, they're talking about a guy who can be a spacer, who can space the floor, and then a guy who can guard. And so those are the guys that, again, that's the buzzword, but like those are what teams are looking for. Because if you're a guy that can't shoot, but you can defend, you're going to be a liability, right? And then other way around, if you're a guy that can shoot or defend and can't shoot, or shoot and can't defend, the specialty guys are kind of going away. The guys that are just shooters
Yeah.
or a guy that can just play defense, right? Those guys are kind of going away right now. You have to be able to play on both sides of the ball. I think you look at the best teams, the teams that are winning championships are the teams that can play on both sides of the ball. You know, the teams that can only defend are not going to win. The teams that can only score are not going to win. Again, you just look at the last few years and which teams are winning the championships. I heard Danny Hurley say this a couple years ago, and he talked about, he used to be defense, 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 and then he was like, man, you know what? We gotta be better offensively. Like we still can be good defensively, but we gotta like our offense have to catch up with our defense. And then you see they went on that magical run of 2 years in a row because they were really good offensively, but they were also really good defensively. You look at OKC this year, you look at Indiana, you just look at the teams, look at a Florida team that won. Like teams that can play on both sides of the ball are going to be the best teams. And so
Yeah.
that's why I think the term 3 and D um get so much attention right now. But I think as a basketball team, you have to be able to do both. And if you can't do both, then you're not going to be good. You can win and you can win some games, but the teams that are winning championships are the teams that could be really good on both sides of the ball.
And it's funny because no matter how much things change, they stay the same, right? Got to play. To you and me, that makes perfect sense. Offense and defense. Yeah, you got to do both sides of it. If you didn't do that in practice, you got yelled at by your coach, you sat on the bench. And that didn't matter if I was 7 years old or 15 years old or whatever it may be. If you didn't handle your defense, then you would be coming off the floor. Lavelle
And that's
Sanders,
that's
go
that's
ahead.
one of the things I don't like in this modern game right now is that what I don't like is that like the best players are not your best defenders.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to hide the guys that are the best players on the team, which is like to me is ridiculous. You got to cross matchups, you got to do all of that, and I get the usage and all that stuff, but like listen, man, you know, if you're on a basketball court and you can score, then you should be able to defend too, right? Like, um,
Yeah.
and that's why, you look at some of these teams, you look at the Knicks, and I'm a diehard Knicks fan, right? And like Brunson and Cat, they can't defend. Like they score all of these points, but like they getting beat up on a defensive end because guys are blowing by them. You put those two in a pick and roll, there's always some confusion. Cat doesn't talk. I mean, it drives me crazy that I remember, watching basketball when I was coming up and like watching the best players on the team guard each other. You know what I mean? Like that was I think that's entertaining for people to see. But like now, you got your best player, you go put him on somebody that's gonna be in a corner, and it's like, it's just I just don't like that about the game. I just wish that like, you know, instead of crossing matchups, this guy's a point guard and this guy's a point guard, we'll let them guard each other. But we don't do this. It's not like that anymore.
No, I mean, it's even like looking back at film and seeing Allen Iverson and Michael Jordan. Like there was just a different world back then. You want to see that. I want to see Shea and Tyrese in the finals on each other. That's what you want to see. But like we said, I mean, it makes perfect sense, and it sounds really stupid to somebody who loves basketball that like you play offense, but you don't have to play defense. Play defense, you don't have to play offense. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. And how can that person be your best player, your most skilled player, the player that you lean on if your player is only 50% of the floor? So
Right.
great conversation here with
We're gonna
Lavelle.
start having hockey subs and
Yeah, they're gonna start doing the
running down
rotation.
on
Come
offense.
off
We're
the
gonna have
ice.
three guys coming in for a different shift. You running back on defense, another three guys gonna come in.
Yeah, are we ready for that? To see that at the event center, we're gonna have shifting
Right,
timeouts.
right,
But
right.
Lavelle Sanders here with us. Levell, I want to jump into rapid fire. I always love our conversations. And today, honestly, probably my favorite one, just because I'm sitting here as a guy who's loved the game for as long as I can remember, like 3 years old, and just sitting here hearing you break it down so real and so genuine and so like inside the war room. So I appreciate it. You get to ask me the first rapid fire question. What do you have for me?
So what are you looking forward to most in this upcoming and not just basketball, but football and basketball season?
Man, it's a good question. I mean, last year I got to make history. I blame God for this wholeheartedly and applied for the college football playoff, covered every round on site. So I got to go out to Penn State. Had never been to Happy Valley before. Got to see SMU and Penn State. That was awesome. And shout out to Penn State, fantastic hosts. Their athletic communications department was incredible. The lady called on me, knew my name, knew my face, like I had been there a million years. And I don't think that people fully understand like a good SID, a good communication staff that can make or break how people view your athletic department. So I have a lot of respect for that. You know, SMU has been great. Rhett Lashley and I have a fantastic relationship, so I appreciate him very much. And then, you know, I mean, getting to cover all the teams all the way to the championship and seeing my guy Riley Leonard and getting to hug him and talk about God. So, you know, this year I'd love to do the college football playoff again. So I'm looking forward to that. And, you know, by the grace of God. And I would also, you know, college basketball season, man, I love it. You know, I don't know if there's a better day in sports than the round of 64 in the men's Division I NCAA tournament. Like basketball from noon until 1 o'clock in the morning. I am that type of, this is the type of person I am, Levell, and you would know this if you had me in your war room. I mean, I am, like I said, student of the game. If you're going to be in my house during the NCAA tournament, especially in those first couple days, you could talk to me about basketball. you can hang out with me about basketball, but I don't want to hear like, and I mean this with all due respect, and I'm a single man in society and no, this is not why I'm single, but if there was a girl at the house and she was talking to me about why can't we put on the Real Housewives? Why can't we go out for a minute? Why do you want to stay in the house all day? I'll break up with her just to make up with her in the second round. Like I can't, you can't bother me when there's 16 games on television. So what am I looking forward to the most? College basketball, man, the tournament. And really like media days and all that stuff. I love that. I get to go to the Garden for the Big East. I always love doing that. And the Big East treat me so well for so long. And you know, I appreciate a lot of things we get to do. The ACC, the American, obviously the America East that you're in. You know, I just love it. You know, I love when it comes back, but it never really leaves for me. And college football, I mean, there's just so many things that I look forward to. And I've done I put a map up and, you know, doing my meteorology of what realignment's going to look like. So, you know, I think there's a lot of things I get excited for, but really it's to tell the stories. It's to make those predictions, to see what they look like. You know, I've made predictions on what collegiate athletics was going to look like, what the NCAA was going to look like. Unfortunately, some of that stuff is coming true that I didn't want to come true, but I mean, I look forward to telling the stories and seeing the games. I'm a fan first. So, you know, I'm on your sideline writing a story and looking at different things, but I try to pull myself away from it and go like, yeah, you're at your computer, you're writing your story, but I'll try to catch myself in moments that I'm so focused on writing what's happening in the game that I'm not like watching the intricate pieces. And I want to see when you switch your defense. I want to see when you move that guy from the top of the key and you shift him down low. Like there's things that I see more when I'm watching a game at home than when I'm physically at the game. Because when I'm physically at the game, I'm doing so many things on the computer and stuff that I challenge myself to like pull back and say, hey man, like you need to watch this without instant replay and without all this stuff. Like I need you to see it. And I just, man, I love being a part of the action. Like I could be 100 years old, Levell, and I just want to jump out on the court. I want to feel the emotion. Like I love feeling other people's like energy. Like I feed off of that. And Kevin Hart just came to Syracuse and he said that he's like, I feed off the crowd and like, you got a good crowd. Like I feed off of that. I like being in places where people got good energy. So I always look forward to that. my question back to you, if you had to sit at a desk with Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley, who would you side with and who would you so it's a two-part question. So if you're sitting with Charles and Shaq, 'cause they always fight with each other, who would you tend to side with if you had to pick one of them? And which one of them would you go back and forth with in a like a razzing, like roasting battle that you think you could win?
Definitely think I can win a battle with Charles because Shaq. I think Shaq is a comedian,
Okay,
so
okay.
I think he has a lot of jokes. But I also think I would probably side more with Charles than Shaq. Um, yeah, I think Shaq his takes um are not as controversial controversial I think as Charles are. But I also think like Charles he says a lot of real things, and that's me. I think, I say this all the time. Like I say real things. Like even with the players, I don't have to curse and all that stuff, but I'm honest. And so, yeah, I think it probably would be Charles.
Yeah, he definitely
Um,
says
but
what he's thinking. What is your next question for me?
if you had to live in one other place in the world other than the United States, where would it be?
Man, it'd probably be the place I just went to with my dad. 11-year promise, and thanks to God we got to do it. Going to Italy, man. The food. I think about the pizza in Napoli every day. So, I got to. And here's the crazy thing, Levell. Like I climbed a mountain in Maddaloni, where my family's from, just outside of Naples on my dad's side. I just decided to climb this mountain in the moment. And as I'm climbing the mountain, you see that it's the Stations of the Cross. So the mountain that I climbed is the first mountain I've ever climbed in the home of my family. And it's to walking the path that Jesus walked to the cross. And so that was one of the moments of my life where I decided at the top of that mountain, like, God, this is, you died at this cross. So I'm going to let a bunch of these things die up here with you. And when I leave this mountain, I can't take this stuff with me. Now, I've been terrible at that at times in these last couple of months, but I got to be really good at saying to God, like, I left this with you. And as you rose from the dead, I need to rise from this. And I challenge myself every day with that. So I'd probably go back and live in Italy. Plus, the women are beautiful, so that'll make life too hard. So, my my question back to you, I got a couple, so I will ask you one more. But my question back to you, this one is, I want to know if you took over my show for the day, and it's Wake Up Call with Levell Sanders. What three basketball world people would you want to talk to? When I say basketball world, it could be a player, could be a coach, could be somebody that was a GM or involved in some way with the game. If you could pick three and you hosted my show, who would they be and why?
I know one would be Michael Jordan. Just I would want to hear his take on everything, had an opportunity to meet him when I was younger. My uncle and him and my uncle went to high school together. So got a chance to meet him when I was younger, but definitely would be Michael Jordan. The other two, I really I don't know. Obviously probably would be a coach. Um, it's a coach that I really like. Um, I would interview Sam Pressey is his name, from OKC,
Yeah.
just because I think he's had a ton of success. He hired one of my ex coaches, Coach Jackson, who's now a scout for the Spurs. He hired him, and Coach Jackson talks about him all the time. I think he's brilliant in the way he puts teams together. So he would be one, and then it would be a coach. It would be George Raveling, maybe.
Okay. All right. Why?
I just somebody just gave me a book or somebody. Uncle Jim just gave me one of his books that I probably got through 5 pages so far. Um, but he just, he's had a ton of experience in a lot of different things. And he's just I think he's somebody who has a wealth of knowledge, and not just on basketball, but I think in life in general. So he would probably be the third one.
Okay. All right. I respect it. What's your last question for me?
Last question would be, um, who you have any mentors? Who's a mentor that somebody you talk to, somebody you ask, you need advice, who's somebody that you can turn to?
I'd have to say I have a bunch of brothers in my life, and one of them that I turn to with anything and everything has got to be Isaac. I mean, him and I are brothers, and we're family, and I trust him as an extension of myself, honestly, like an extension of if I'm going to talk myself through something, then I'll go to him. So I would say I definitely call him a mentor because I trust him and I value him. And he's always been honest with me. He's always been real with me. And he has a very easy way of kind of just letting me figure it out. So I'd say Isaac. This is one I've never asked before, Lavelle, but I'm very excited for this question. You can you can keep two on your roster, cut one and trade one. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Bill Russell, Kobe Bryant. You play two, trade one, cut one. Who are they?
Um, so I've never seen Bill Russell play.
Okay.
So and we're talking about now, right? So I'm gonna cut Bill Russell.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep Jordan and LeBron, and I'll trade Kobe.
Okay. Why?
Explanation.
Yeah.
Well, I think Kobe and Jordan are kind of the same players. Um, Kobe, wanted to be Mike, so I will keep Mike, because I think he's the best. And then, LeBron is just one of those guys that just does everything, And so I think if you had somebody like LeBron and Jordan, I think you would be okay. So yeah.
Fair enough. I like it. That's a question that I may be developing over time. I want to see if your players start asking you that or asking each other that. Like, okay, you gotta play one, bench one, cut one, something like that. Lavelle
Right.
Sanders here on the broadcast. Lavelle, as always, it's a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you soon. If you'll have me, I'd love to come down in the summer and just watch the guys run, or at least get to kind of just sit with you and the staff. Because, like I said, being a student of the game and respecting you, I just love to have a little view of what that looks like behind the scenes if you'd have me.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's called a wake up call, right? So we go at 7 in the morning. So you willing to come down and be in the gym. The second week we will go at 4:30 because we have camp. So that might be a better week to come. But like other than that, we practice at 7 in the morning. So you willing to come down anytime you want, just let me know.
Yeah.
Um, no problem.
Well, I appreciate it as always, and appreciate your friendship. I know you've been in my corner for a long time, and I've been in yours. So I'm really excited for everything that is to come because I feel like it's only getting better at Binghamton with you and your staff. So thank you for the work that you all do, and I look forward to seeing you soon here this summer.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for everything also. Really, really, I think I saw you had Gavin on the other day. So yeah, appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I'll talk with you soon, okay?
All right.
Take care. That coming from Lavelle Sanders here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. And I can't wait. I mean, that's the thing is having conversations like that. I get so like, because I respect Lavelle and how he breaks it down. And just, I mean, for those of you watching and listening, if you don't know basketball, he helped to give you these pieces and these elements and talking about, simple concepts, but some things that people don't take into account. Some people don't value, some people don't change, some people don't adjust. Some people won't find the solution in the problem. They'll just talk about the problem. So, I think a lot of things that we address today really fit with life. And of course, Wake Up Call is where sports meets life. And these conversations with Deondre Francois, as well as, having the conversation here with Levell Sanders, there's just something special about these moments and just really learning from these gentlemen this morning. And it's just real talk. I mean, this is what Wake Up Call is all about. We haven't taken a commercial break, and we've been on the broadcast for over 2 hours. And that just, that plays, or about 2 hours right now. So that just plays into the fact of, we're about the content, we're about the conversation, we're about the relationships, and just connecting people. And I appreciate you being here on Wake Up Call and being a part of this with us. With that being said, from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, we will take a step aside, and you're going to hear for the first time ever an all-new Canine Campground commercial. The Canine Camp Dog Daycare commercial had its soft debut yesterday, but you'll hear that, and an all-new commercial from Avicolli's. That's all coming up here on Wake Up Call. Stay with us. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McInerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Bryan and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Bryan and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Life gets busy, and sometimes that means us running around. So Canine Camp Dog Daycare offers you an opportunity to give your dog a place to stay while you take care of what you need to throughout the day. Canine Camp Dog Daycare is located on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, New York. You can see it from the highway, and it's just off of Erie Boulevard across from BJ's Wholesale Club. Call 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110 to schedule an appointment to bring your dog in and tour the facility. Appointments are Monday through Thursday after 6:30, where you and your dog can see everything that Canine Camp Dog Daycare has to offer, including a self-serve dog wash and a retail store filled with all of your dog's wants and needs, including food, treats, harnesses, leashes, and more, making Canine Camp Dog Daycare your one-stop shop for your furry-loving friend. Right, Lily?
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge, and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item, available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks comes to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. They are open for you Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. You can head over to GG Cards and Breaks and enjoy what it's like to be a big kid. It doesn't matter what your age is. You could honestly be a little kid right now, or you could be somebody who has that little kid spirit. You're never too old to go and see the players that you love and the teams that you love on cards that you can bring home with autographs and potential one-on-ones, rookie patch autos, and so much more. You never know what you're going to find at GG Cards and Breaks. And, of course, Disney Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, and Pokemon gets us connected to characters that we love and games that we love to play. There's nothing like GG Cards and Breaks, and that comes to the guest service, the attention to detail, and the amount of tireless hours that are put in by Josh, Anthony, and the entire team. GG Cards and Breaks is not simply a sports and trading card shop. It's a place to come in the community to be a part of something special, good, positive, that's ever growing. Head to GG Cards and Breaks today and experience what that feels like. On 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6, and on Sundays from 10 to 5. Back here inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, always happy to be here with you. And of course, under promise, over deliver. We are past 2 hours once again. I've gotten so used to going past 2 hours that when we're not at the 2 hour mark, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is happening right now? So with that being said, we are going to jump into the ingredients to success, the final piece of every Tuesday broadcast. Bringing us out of the Tuesday broadcast, the ingredients to success, proudly presented by the team at Avicolli's. You're going to hear an all new message from them today as we start off July. And I am so excited to share that with you in the upcoming fast break. Now we have an all-new topic from them in the ingredients to success, the bigger picture. And I've been talking with both of my guests today about this, ironically, and in a beautiful way, poetically by God here. Deondre Francois speaking on the bigger picture, seeing things, seeing who you are, right? And focusing on something and not having a focus, not having that like lack of focus where you're kind of looking at everything, but to have that focus and to zero in on something that can help you see what's going on. And, you know, because if you focus on like kind of everything flying at you at the same time, you can't really zero in. But when you zero in, that can help you with the bigger picture, right? Knowing how to pinpoint something and to focus on what you're trying to accomplish in your life can help you piece by piece develop a picture that you're happy to look at when you look at your life. And then Levell Sanders just breaking down the elements of everything in the game and recruiting and what they're going after and what they're doing and why they're doing it. You know, the bigger people say, well, in order to focus on the bigger picture, Dan, I gotta look at everything in a big way. No. In order to create a really good painting, you have to focus on the details. In order to put together the bigger puzzle, you have to go piece by piece, and sometimes you start in this corner, and sometimes you start in the middle of the puzzle, but ultimately putting together that bigger picture. And I would say to you that, you know, it's important to focus on the big picture, what you want to do in your life, right? So when I said to myself, because it's funny when people say, well, what do you do? I can say like I'm a broadcaster. I can say I'm a sportscaster because a lot of people know the show. I can say I'm a broadcaster because we have at least 5 different shows that we do when it comes to sports, entertainment, Disney, relationships, travel. And so I can say I'm a sportscaster. I could say I'm a broadcaster. I could say I'm a host. I could say I'm an MC, a business owner, I'm a director. But the reality of it all is, I mean, the bigger picture of it is I'm a director, a producer, a writer, an editor. I am a sales consultant. I am a host. I am on-air talent. I'm on-site talent. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that I can say that I do here. But when I started broadcasting, you know, my thought was I'm going to go to Bristol, I'm going to go to ESPN, I'm going to work on SportsCenter. And I've gotten to work with 3 different ESPN affiliates, and I love my experience there, and there's a lot of beautiful things that came from them. So I thank God for them, and I thank everyone who hired me along the way and gave me the opportunity and kept their word. But I realized as I continued to go throughout my life that, you know, after I worked at the ESPNs and then, you know, I came back home and I worked for another radio station and things were not what they said they were going to be. That kind of pushed me towards something that I was thinking about. Like, do I want to own my own company someday? Do I want to do my own thing? You know, I would love to have, and I remember thinking about like, you know, I would love to have my own radio signal. And I was told back then, if I wanted a tower, they're $1 million. And I was like, well, I'm not, number one, I don't have $1 million. Number two, I don't want to spend $1 million on, just this one signal. And then my producer said to me, Niccolo Cicero, said, what about the internet? What about trying that out, putting some stuff out there? You don't have to go live, you can pre-record it. And, that really helped to open me up to that. He said, build a website, have a place to put your work. So it's not just on ESPN, but people can go back and listen to it here. Go on the internet, record some stuff, put it out there. Like my company started before I had a live broadcast, before we were live on video. There was a lot of things that we did at the start of my company, or that we didn't do, I should say, at the start of my company. And I had to learn over time. The bigger picture God's been helping me to create, but it's funny when people say, like, what do you want? What I want is to help people. What I want is to learn from others. I want to gain knowledge and wisdom. I want to use that knowledge and wisdom to help someone else have a better life, to not make the same mistake that I did, to not go down the same road that I did, to know how to answer this or know how to stick up for themselves in a place where maybe I didn't. So I'm doing this to help others. I'm doing it because it's in my blood. It's a part of me. I love it. I love to host. I don't like watching movies and TV shows and people on stage and hearing people sing on the radio and whatnot. Like, I'm not the type of person to watch a screen in a movie theater or at home on the TV or listen to the radio or watch somebody on stage and say, like, oh, wow, like, if I did that, like, I want to be the person on the stage. When I go to a comedy show, I'm thinking about what jokes would I tell? Would I have said that? Would I have carried myself like that? Oh, they're doing something that I would do, or that helped me figure something out that makes sense to me. Or, hey, Dan, you can do this because look at this. Like, look, something you question yourself on. Now you're seeing it, and it maybe helps you get over the hump or get past that fear. So I'm never the person that goes to the movie theater like, okay, I'm just going to watch a movie. Like, I'm the person going to the theater, always in the back of my mind saying, I want to make a movie. I'm the person watching TV saying, oh, I like this show because of how they developed this and what they did with that. And this is what I would do. And this is how I would have changed it. And this is how I would have adjusted it. And this is a story I want to hear more about. Or I really like the way that they showed this. I liked the fact that in a world where people are constantly copying people, this movie was original in how they shot the movie, in what they did, in the decisions that they made at certain points in the movie. So I'm never watching something outside of the creator's eye, so to speak. So it's hard for me to answer a question when somebody says, well, where do you want to be in 10 years? Following God, chasing my dreams, achieving more than I could have ever imagined, and then helping other people with it. I don't have I want to do this with my network, and there's thoughts that I have on my mind, but when you ask me what do I hope to accomplish or where do I hope to be, I hope that I've helped people. I hope that I've made people laugh. I hope that God would be proud of me. I hope that God is proud of me. I hope that I have stayed true to my character. I hope that I have never taken on a persona and I've always just been Dan Tortora and not some weird character that changes their voice and how they tackle situations differently than they would off the air. I would like to think I've built relationships, strong relationships that I can trust and always go back to. I would like to think that I have embodied morality and ethics, that I have helped people feel safe and equal, understood and appreciated. I would hope that I've helped people feel heard, and noticed. And yeah, it's hard for me to specifically tell you like exactly, well, I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that. Like, I didn't know I was going to be the president and CEO of my company. I didn't know that at 26 years old, I was going to start my own brand. I basically take my brand and put it into my own company, I should say, because I started my brand at the beginning of my career in November of 2003, but to like be the keeper of it and not have to like share it with somebody else or have somebody try to like force me into something. And that's something that I really love. You hear people in the entertainment industry speak on, you have to fall in line. You have to look like everybody else. You have to do certain things. You have to lie. You have to cheat. You have to steal. You have to fit a certain character. You have to, you're pigeonholed, you're typecast. I don't want that for anyone, not just myself. So, I can honestly say to you that I'm so grateful when I look at the bigger picture of my life. I'm grateful that I just wanted to build. So, if you were a recruit that had one offer and you wanted to talk to me, let's talk. If you had 50 offers, let's talk. If you had a Syracuse offer, my hometown, let's talk. If you didn't, let's talk. If, I reach out to every conference, and whatever conference would say, yeah, let's do an interview, then let's do one. And the ones that didn't, I didn't hold it against them or knock them. I was just kind of like, hey, your loss. We're going to go out here and do this thing. And, I'm not going to lose sleep over the fact that you don't want to be a part of it, but, it is cool. It is different. It is interesting. And, hopefully, down the road, maybe you'd like to be a part of it. So, I just feel like what God's been building in my life, that bigger picture, right, that we're talking about here in the ingredients to success. How do you get to the bigger picture? Well, you believe in yourself, you put in the work, you trust yourself, you value yourself, you build long-lasting relationships, you create trust, you create a safe place, you are who you say you are. These are all parts of the ingredients to success. You can't really get somewhere in life by, some people would say that you can do this, but I would disagree with you and say that as much as some people maybe think you can do it this way, I don't think you can succeed long-term this way, is by lying, cheating, and stealing. That is not an avenue for me. So, I think you get to the bigger picture by having dreams and aspirations, knowing your talents, having your passion, honing your talents, being willing to learn, to gain knowledge, to gain wisdom. And not just to gain knowledge and wisdom like trinkets that you put up on a shelf, but to implement that knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge and wisdom doesn't mean anything. Experience doesn't mean anything if you don't utilize it, right? It's not about bringing something home and putting it on the shelf to collect dust. It's about learning from it. When I gain knowledge, I want to put it into action. When I gain wisdom, I want to put it into action. When I gain experience, I want to put it into action. So I think, when you're trying to look at the bigger picture, you're asking yourself, why do I do what I do? Maybe this year I'm working on a movie. Maybe next year I'm working on music. While every year, I'm staying true to what I'm doing on my show, right? And my shows and whatnot. So I think that when someone says, what is the bigger picture of your life? I think in my case, it's what are you always seeking to do? Whether you're hosting a show or you're doing comedy or you're writing a script or you're singing, what are you hoping to accomplish? What are you trying to get out there? And I know for me that what I'm always trying to accomplish is bringing people together, is creating safe space, positive energy, facilitating a place where you can be yourself around me. You can feel comfortable around me. You can feel safe around me because you are safe. You have every reason to feel. See, my thing is not creating a space where people feel a certain way as much as it's creating the space where that's what it is. I want you to feel safe because you are safe. I want you to feel valued because you are valued. It's not so much creating the space so that you believe it. It's bringing you into a space that is very real and very true. So my bigger picture is God. My bigger picture is how can I affect the world in a positive way? How can I make my world small? Not because I want to be well known and popular and famous, but I want my world to be small so that means I'm reaching the most amount of people to speak the message of God, to help people feel safe, to cry with them, to laugh with them, to hold them, for them to hold me, for us to learn from each other. I love talking with Levell because I respect him. I respect our conversations because there's a genuineness that he's always given me, and it hasn't gone away. There's a comfort and a calmness that I forget that I'm on the air when I'm talking to Levell, and I just feel like I'm in the danger room, the war room, whatever you want to call it, with him, and it's just him and I. You know, speaking with Deondre, there was emotion that came out of that conversation because he trusts me. I could feel that trust. I could feel that I'm not nervous. I feel safe. I'm going to talk about my life. I'm going to share with you my vulnerabilities. I'm going to share with you what I've learned. And because he gave me that, I'm so grateful for that, that I felt that in the moment. So, you know, my focus, my bigger picture is, am I spreading God? You know, am I spreading him? When people look at me, do they think about goodness and truth, right? I'm not God. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I've sinned millions of times. You know, I am not the greatest human being, and I'm not always right. And with that being said, when people look at me, I want them to think about God, not God complex, not look at Dan and he's God. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when people look at me and they think about me and they hear me speak, I want that to parallel God. I want that to parallel when you think about God and you think about loving me and being there for me, and I can feel safe and I can be honest and I can be me and I could be vulnerable and I could be free, and I know he's always looking out for the best for me. That's what I want people. When they see me, I want them to go, hey, Dan's never wishing bad on anybody. Dan's never hoping that people have a bad life that hope that he has a bad life. Dan's not attacking the perpetrators. He's not attacking the victims. And there's times where I've had to check myself. There's times where I've had to sit with myself and say, you know, hey, you did a show today and you attacked. You said something today that sounded like, you know, you're really angry, and you didn't hone in that anger, and you have to do a better job with that. Hey, you did something today where you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you. Even though it happened to you and you spoke about it and you told the truth, you wouldn't want your dirty laundry to be out there. And you put that person's out there. What if they said that about you? What if they had a show and they decided to talk, right? And so I think that everything is about not only your perspective, but flipping that and saying, if I'm talking about an ex, am I doing it respectfully? Am I telling jokes? Am I being broad? Or am I really, you know, throwing daggers at somebody? Am I doing an eye for an eye? When I talk about the media plagiarizing my work, why am I saying that? What is the purpose of me saying that? Because I'm bitter? Because I'm angry? Or because I want to clarify something? Because I want to give credence to my work? Because I don't want people taking credit for it? Because I want to warn people of what the media does if they're thinking about getting into this world? You know, my why is very important. My why is my bigger picture. My why is God. Bringing God, bringing positivity, bringing truth, bringing consistency, and good nature. So if I'm on a show, whatever show I'm doing, or I'm on a stage, or I'm writing a script, or I'm writing a song, and I find that I am not bringing people close to God by what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, then I can't do that. So my bigger picture has to be, if it doesn't look like God and it doesn't bring people closer to God, then you have to determine why. You have to determine how to fix it and what to do with it. Is it something that is not worthy of your time that you shouldn't even be doing at all? Or is it something that you need to adjust? And that Jiminy Cricket, you know, that's God. That's your conscience. And I think it's really, really important in life, because some people say their bigger picture is to be married and have a family. Some people will say their bigger picture is to have a house. Some people will say their bigger picture is to live here or have this job. But my bigger picture goes beyond some things that are in my control and some things that aren't. You know, my bigger picture is whatever I'm doing, like Wake Up Call, Superpowered Pop, Two Mics, No Filter, Comic Book Trails, and Do Diz with Dan all have to look and feel the same, in the sense of, I'm always driven to God. I'm always driven to bring people to God. I am always open and honest. I'm not bashing. I'm not attacking. and I'm seeking to share knowledge and wisdom. And if I'm sharing something difficult, or if I'm airing something that happened in my life where someone said or did something to me that was hurtful, how am I carrying that information? Am I respecting a person that didn't respect me? And can I have this basically, I have to think about everything that I do. If God was listening to my show, watching my show, reading my article, would he be proud of me? Or would he say, Daniel, you know better? That's my bigger picture. It's not about the likes and the clicks and the money and the this. That's all stuff I can't take with me when I die. But what I can take with me is looking up at God and saying, when I do wake up call, I'm this way. And when I do Two Mics No Filter, I'm the same way, right? I'm seeking to bring, if Two Mics No Filter has an angry, hypocritical, double standard Dan, and Wake Up Call has this open, honest, loving, caring person, then I have to fix Two Mics No Filter. You feel me? So, because everything that I touch, if it's not for God and with God, then it's not worth doing or saying. And so God is essentially my funnel. God is essentially, I take everything that I do and I put it into this funnel that is God, and God helps me to take what comes out of it, right? You see a funnel and it's got a big opening, but it's got like where you put everything in is huge. Where everything comes out, it's a tinier piece, right? So the funnel takes in all of this, but only a little bit gets out. So my thing is saying, hey, God, here's all my ideas. Here are all my thoughts. Here's everything that I want to do and how I want to do it. I'm going to throw it in here. And then it comes out and God says, well, this is what we need to focus on. This is what we need to do. If Superpowered Pop and Do Diz with Dan and Comic Book Trails and Wake Up Call all look the same, but Two Mics No Filter doesn't, understand that it's different from this, isn't it? But they're all different. So if this one doesn't look the same, why does it not look the same? Is it because it's a different topic? Is it because it's a more difficult topic? Is it because it's a break from the norm? Or is it because morals, values, ethics, things that you care about, or the way that you speak is not being carried in the same way? Because I want people, if you only know me from Two Mics No Filter and you see me on Wake Up Call, I want you to be like, oh, that's Dan. That's who he is. If you go to Superpowered Pop and then you go to Comic Book Trails or Do Diz with Dan, that you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to listen to this show because, I love what this guy does over here. If you know who you are as a person and you have that consistency and that goodness and kindness, not consistency of evil and negativity, but if you have positivity and goodness and you're consistent with that, then that should show up in everything that you do, right? There shouldn't be people out here going, yeah, every time I see Dan, he's on time. And then somebody else going, yeah, every time I see him, he's late. Or somebody saying I can trust him and somebody else saying I can't trust anything that he says or does, right? You don't want to create different versions of yourself. You want to have yourself in your entirety, always, in my opinion, serving God. And as you serve God in that consistency, that should show up in everything that you do. When somebody meets you at a different place at a different time, you should still be the same person. The Dan Tortora walking around New York Comic-Con covering it for Superpowered Pop should be no different than the Dan Tortora sitting at ACC Kickoff covering football as, under Wake Up Call. That person should be the same. They're different topics. One's entertainment, movies, music, and whatnot, and the other one is sports. But how I talk to people, how I carry myself, who I am, that should be consistent, right? The source material might change, but the person should not. And I think that that's the bigger picture, right? Whatever you're doing, who are you? Because I don't want to be Dan the broadcaster, Dan the husband, Dan the father, Dan the godfather, Dan the son, Dan the friend, Dan the comedian, Dan the singer. I want to be Dan that happens to do these things, happens to have these relationships. And in order to make yourself strong at your core and be that consistent, you have to have God. Because there's nothing in life that's as consistent as God. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. Weather is not consistent, right? Money is not consistent. Communities are not consistent. There are certain things that will change. A TV show that you love might one day throw something in there and you're just like, man, I watched this show for 10 years and now I can't stand it. I used to go into a hat store. I won't name it, but I used to go into this hat store and I used to get hats from there all the time growing up as a kid. Then I went in there and this guy was really disrespectful, rude, and when he had an opportunity to right his ship, he just kept going down the negative path. And ever since that experience, I've had no desire to spend a penny in a store that I used to ask my mom to bring me to all the time. Because they're not consistent. Now, granted, that could just be one employee that acts that way. So then I went back into the store and I had another bad experience and another bad experience and another bad experience, to the point where I jokingly said, in order to work for this company, I think you have to have horrible customer service. I think that's a prerequisite. Like when they interview people, it's like, hey, do you ignore people? Great. Hey, do you disrespect people? Perfect. Do you act like you don't even know that someone walked through the door? Fantastic. Are you unwilling to help people? Great. Are you do you either have lack of knowledge or you have the knowledge but you don't want to share it? Perfect. You're hired. Because I had so many experiences in this place, different locations, of just walking into a place and I'm like, I don't know who works here. I don't know who the workers are. Nobody looks like they care. Nobody's wearing like a typical uniform. The people that work here look like the people that are shopping here, and by how they're dressing, I can't tell who works here because nobody greeted me. Nobody's wearing a name tag. And no one's even like necessarily behind the register. You just kind of walk in and you're like, do you work here? Or did the person that work here, did they just like go to the back and you and I are just shopping? And I had so many of those experiences that I said, okay, I've had enough. And that's the same thing. Like if I do a show and people are experiencing me and I'm negative and I'm negative and I'm negative and I'm negative, someone who's positive is going to say, okay, you know what? Maybe he had a bad 4 weeks. Maybe he had a bad month, but I might have lost them already because they've had a bad 4 weeks of they've had 4 weeks of listening to negativity. They might not come back and listen to the show. Now they don't know what's going on in my life, but the way that they felt watching or listening could have been enough for them, could have triggered something inside of them, right? So it's not that you have to be on all the time and perfect all the time. It's that you have to try. And I think the bigger picture is, who are you? Who are you? You are the sum of your days. You are the sum of the decisions you make. You are the sum of the words you say. So if you say, I'm a person who doesn't really swear, but you swear every day, no one's going to believe you saying that you're not someone who typically swears. If you're someone who says, I always want to be on time or early, but you're late to everything, then people just assume you're going to be late, and then they will start being late to their meetings with you. They will not apologize because they now know you to be late. They assume you will be late. They expect you to be late. So now they are not trying to be on time or early because they have dealt with you for so long that they know that there's a very slim chance you're going to be on time. So they're not going to be on time or early sitting there waiting for you anymore. And I've seen that in people. When I was late and I had hired an intern and I was late, my intern started being late. And my intern just started showing up late. And there was no conversation about it because it was like, what am I going to say? I've been late, and am I going to expect them to apologize to me just because I'm their boss? When I was late and I showed them that behavior and now they're mimicking that behavior, and they weren't late beforehand. That wasn't how they were doing things before. So when you look at something like that and you say that to yourself, you say, okay, like, did I create the monster? Or is this a person that has always been late and was trying to be different, and then I rubbed off on them in a negative way? You can rub off on people in a positive way, and you can rub off on people in a negative way. And to me, the bigger picture conversation in this Ingredients to Success is, what type of human being do you want to be? Because the bigger picture is not simply, well, I want to be married. Well, I want to have kids. Well, I want to live here. Well, I want to have this job. That's part of it. But the bigger picture is the human being that you choose to be, more often than not, on a daily basis. Who you are consistently is who you are. And you can say that you're this, that, or the other, but the reality of it all is you are who you act like most of the time. Because I've got down on my knees and I've asked God for forgiveness. I said, God, I'm not this person. God, I'm not this person. I'm sorry. God, I'm not this person. I'm sorry. And then after a while, I was like, I am this person. I need to apologize for being this person. Not apologizing for the sin, not apologizing for the mistake, but apologizing in the bigger picture for becoming this person where I've accepted this behavior in my life and I have somewhere told myself, it's okay. I can do this. Because God's always going to forgive me and God's always going to be there for me. And you have to watch that. Because I've sat down with God before and I've said, you know, I treat you in a way that I would never accept. I apologize for something that I did wrong and I keep doing the same wrong thing. And then I turn around and say to you that I broke up with someone because they did the same thing. Every time they apologized, they kept doing the same bad habit. And I said, okay, after a while, I'm not going to stay with this person who continues to hurt me, yet I expect God to forgive me when I continue to hurt him. That's the bigger picture. The bigger picture is, what are you? Who are you? Why are you? Right? Sometimes you got to break it all. What did Deondre say? Jimbo Fisher would break us down to build us up. Sometimes you have to break yourself down to see who you are, to decide what pieces you want to assemble in the real you. Because if you're here this morning and you're watching and listening to the show and you say, Dan, there's parts of me I love and there's parts of me I don't. There's parts of me that I want to be me and there's parts of me that I don't want to be me. Well, then you have to break that down and you have to decide, just like Levell said in the war room, sitting there with the coaches, you got to look beyond just simply looking at the film and looking at this. And if you're going to pick this over this, you got to say why, right? You have to look at your life and you have to be fluid, like I spoke about with Levell. Be willing to change and adjust. Be willing to learn and to grow, to implement the knowledge and the wisdom that you gain over time and decide who you want to be and why you want to be that way. There's only one person that can decide who you are going to be. Not your disease, not your, if you have an intellectual disability or you have any type of disability or whatever's going on in your life. The only person that can decide who you're going to be is you. You might let people affect you. You might let people attack you. You might let people act a certain way about you. Or not let certain people act, like you might let things happen, right? You might accept things into your life, but you have to ultimately decide who you want to be. You can't control what other people say and do, but you can control if you sit there for it. That's why I said if you let people attack you, you can't control if somebody attacks you, but you can control if you sit there and continue to be attacked and take it, right? And because sometimes people say, well, stick up for yourself. Well, some relationships, it's not about sticking up for yourself. It's saying, why am I in this relationship? You should not have to stick up for yourself when you come home to your wife or your husband. You shouldn't have to stick up for yourself to a bully in your house. Like, that's not acceptable, right? If you're in a relationship where you have to stick up to your wife or your husband and you have to tell them who you are and demand their respect, you're with the wrong person, because you should not have to demand respect from people that love and cherish you. So the bigger picture to me is about looking at who you choose to be as a person and why you choose that and what you're going to do to be consistent in that. That's the bigger picture, is that when somebody meets me on the street or they see me in church or they listen to me on the show or they listen to Two Mics No Filter and Wake Up Call and Superpowered Pop and they hear the same person, different topics, different elements of me, maybe a little more comedy here, maybe a little more serious here, but the same person. I don't want somebody to listen to Two Mics and go, wow, that's not the Dan Tortora that I know. That person's so different, might as well have a different name. That's not what I want. This show might show you a more comedic side of me and like other topics, but I'd want Levell to listen to Two Mics and go, that's still the Dan that I respect. I would want Andrea from Two Mics, my co-host, to listen to Superpowered Pop and say, hey, I don't know comic books like he does, but that's the same Dan. That's the playful, excited Dan. That's the Dan that's really passionate. You want to have your foundation be the same wherever you are. I don't want my mom, like, I might be more vulnerable with my mom. I might tell my mom more, but that doesn't mean I'm a different person to my mom than I am to Isaac or that I am to a stranger. I would want them all to say he's loving, he's caring, he believes in God, he's kind, he's not a hypocrite, he's not about double standards. My mom might know more about me, but I would want anyone to say he's loving, he's caring, he's passionate, he's there, he's humble, he's real, he's genuine, he is the person that's going to give you a shoulder to cry on, he's going to be the first person to make you laugh. Like, that should be consistent. A listener of my show should be like, yeah, you know, these are the qualities Dan has, and my mom goes, yeah, they are. But my mom may know more about me. That doesn't mean I'm a different person with my mom. It just means different people have different access to you. You're the same building, but there's different clearance levels. How about that? Just came up with that in my brain. You're the same building, but you have different clearance levels. So everybody comes into the building, like everyone that knows you knows the building. But some people are clearance level 1, some people are clearance level 7. Right? Because you got to keep your circle tight and then the inner circle of that circle tighter. But you're the same building. Right? I would want people to listen to any episode of Wake Up Call and say these are different guests, different topics, different time, but Dan's still respectful. He's still kind. He's still about knowledge and wisdom. He's real. He's genuine. He values people. He believes in God. I would want all those things to carry through. 2 mics, no filter. Wow, this, the conversation last week was really funny and comedic. The one this week is really serious and difficult, but it's the same guy tackling both situations. The same guy that made me laugh is the same guy that's making me cry because we're talking about something that's really difficult. But I know that he's the same Dan. He values the same things. My dad told me a long time ago, and I said that to Deondre Francois, people are going to say things about you and they're going to do things towards you. Don't ever give them a reason to be right. My dad said that to me. He said, people might say horrible things about you, but don't ever give them the evidence to make it true. And we talked to Deondre about perception being reality. Like, people say horrible things about you, but when the truth is uncovered, make sure that that stuff is not true. I mean, Jesus Christ, perfect human being, God in man. And look at how he was treated. Did he do anything to anybody? No. So, the perception of Jesus was the reality for some people. Some people perceived him as not the Son of God. People still perceive him as not the Messiah. People perceive him as a criminal. People perceive him as crazy. People perceive him as a liar. People perceive him as someone with a God complex. He's not any of those things, but that was perception. Think about that. A perfect human being, God in man, perceived wrong. But he never gave anybody a reason. He never gave you a reason to perceive him wrong. You just didn't want to believe him. So that plays right into what my dad said to me. People will perceive what they want to perceive. They'll say what they want to say. They'll do what they want to do. Just don't ever give them a reason to be right about negative things, right? If somebody wants to say, well, he's a person who doesn't care or value your time, and that's not true. You know that you care and value everyone's time. So what do you need to do? Don't ever be late. Because if that person says he doesn't care about anybody's time, he doesn't value anybody. And you say, well, that's not true. And this person keeps saying this and you keep saying the other thing. But then they could turn around and go, well, he's late all the time. So now you're sitting there going, well, I do care about your time and I do value your time, but that person's right. Right? And if there's some credence to what this person's saying, then will people believe them even more? If there's a little bit of truth in a lie that somebody's telling, you don't want there to be a little bit of truth in that. Now, everybody makes mistakes and not everybody's perfect. We all have moments that if we could go back, we would do something different, say something different, or just get out of the situation altogether. But we have to learn. We have to grow. We have to develop. And we have to be willing to admit our faults, and we have to be willing to do better the next time. Life is not about being perfect. It's about deciding who you are and then focusing on the bigger picture of that, the consistency of that. For people to know you as you, not as all these different versions of you. Like I said, same building, different clearance levels, right? If every time you talk to a different group of people, you had a different accent, right? So these people think that you have a thick Italian accent. These people think you're American. These people think you're from, a stereotypical ghetto. These people think that you're from like this rich community, this affluent community of billions of dollars. So you're talking like this, or you're like, yo, what up, ma? Like there's these different pieces that when people say it, and it's not stereotyping, it's reality. Like, people know. When you say do a stereotypical ghetto voice, people know what that voice sounds like. A stereotypical stuck-up voice, people know what that sounds like. A stereotypical, Italian accent, a stereotypical Asian accent, a stereotypical Hispanic. Like, people know what those things sound like. But who are you? I would never want people that are my family and friends to come see me on stage one day. And like I get up on stage and I'm like, yo, what up, everybody? How we chilling? How we doing with that? What? Yeah, boy. Because that's not how I speak to them. So they would be watching me on stage. They couldn't wait to see me on stage. Oh my gosh, we love Dan. We're supporting him. This is a big moment for him. He's stepping into something he's never done before. And then they look at the stage and they don't see Dan. They see this other version of me. That's so different, it might as well have a different name altogether. So the bigger picture is, who are you? Why are you? And what are you going to do to make that consistent in every walk of your life, in every relationship, and everything you dive into? What I sing about and what I joke about are going to be two different things. But when people listen to my music or they hear my comedy, do they know my heart? I would never want somebody to listen to my music and be like, oh my gosh, he cares so much about people. And then listen to my comedy and be like, man, this guy is so rude and disrespectful. I would want them to listen to my comedy and go, man, that man, as much as he jokes around and he talks about stuff, he never attacks anybody. He doesn't belittle people. Like, he tells funny stories from his life experience, but with no intent to hurt the person that's a part of this story. He sings this song and he's talking about a breakup and something that confused him. He's talking about a relationship that was really volatile where he got cheated on, but he's not hating this person. He's just singing about his experience. There's a difference between talking about what you've been through and talking about somebody. And I've had to learn that the hard way recently, where I'm like, I'm not talking about an experience. I'm clapping back at somebody who clapped at me. And that's not who I want to be. I don't want to bully the bully. Talking about your life and what you've been through is vastly different than bullying the bully. And you got to be really cognizant of that and how you go about things in your life and how you carry yourself, because consistency is key. And how you treat people. I don't want anybody. I mean, people are going to say what they want to say and do what they want to do, like my dad said. But I don't want to ever give anybody a reason to be like, Dan's a jerk and here's why. We all have our moments. We have our sins. We have our moments where we could have been better. But I don't want anyone to ever be able to say, like, Dan is a bad person and it's because of da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Because anytime I've said or done something that hurt somebody's feelings, and I never felt good about it, I was never like, yeah, And I think there's people out there where I'm the villain in their story. But if they actually sat down with me, I would tell them, like, I'm sorry for saying this. I'm sorry for doing that. I gave you all my love and I didn't feel respected. Or I gave you my friendship and you were never there for me. And I shouldn't have said this and I shouldn't have done this and I shouldn't have carried myself this way. That's over here. But I want you to know that I decided to not chase you or be in your life anymore because of this thing over here. I mean, you can be in a bad relationship, any type of relationship. You could be in a bad relationship, but you should learn something about yourself because you're not perfect. I was not, like, there were times where I was in a bad relationship, but I carried myself wrong. I was in a relationship with somebody that it was never going to turn into marriage, but I disrespected her. I disrespected myself. She saw me not take care of myself. And by not taking care of myself, the virus that I was to myself ended up polluting our relationship. I sabotaged my relationship with her. It was never going to turn into marriage, but that doesn't mean that I can't learn from that. I sabotaged the wrong relationship, but I still sabotaged it. And I don't want to put myself in a situation where it's okay that I sabotage the wrong relationship. It's not okay. It's like, thank God I didn't sabotage the right one, but I still hurt somebody. I still hurt myself. I still have to learn. That's the bigger picture. It's about, what am I learning? Like, somebody says, why'd you break up with this person? Because they cheated on me. Why aren't you friends with this person? Because they lied to me. But can I go back to those relationships and say, yeah, that person cheated on me, but man, I never sat down and ate dinner with her. That doesn't mean she can cheat, and that doesn't mean she should, but that was the part of the relationship where I failed us. I didn't spend enough time just like sitting there with her and talking to her. And I'm not saying she should have cheated, but I am saying that a part of her feeling lonely or seeking attention is because maybe she didn't feel like she got the attention at home. And for that, cheating is never right. But could I have given her more attention? Of course I could. That friend that lied to me, I shouldn't have expected a lot from him, because there was things that he did years before that I would have never done to somebody. So there wasn't a reason to be his friend. And I stuck around after I got hurt, and I got hurt more. So it's not my fault that he hurt me, but it is my fault that I didn't look at the character of him and say to myself, like, maybe this isn't a good place to be. But at the same time, as much as he did things that made me walk away, he yelled at me one day for being late. And he was 100% right in doing it. So we should be learning from everything. Every experience. And some of the experiences are simply just to learn to not allow yourself to be around those people. Sometimes it's very cut and dry. Your experience is, hey, next time you see a person like this, walk away swiftly. And sometimes it's more layered. I learned patience. I learned that, I had a double standard of asking someone to get rid of something that I wasn't ready to get rid of. I told this person to stop talking to their exes, knowing that I had 3 of my exes on my phone. That's something that we have to learn, and we have to grow. So when someone says, who is Dan Tortora? Somebody who listens to Two Mics No Filter, or Wake Up Call, or met me at a game, or is a family member of mine, or has known me since I was a kid, can all say similar things. They know me from different spaces. They know me from different periods of time. But I would hope that everybody would say, he's kind, he's compassionate, he's funny, he's caring, he's real, he's genuine, he believes in God, his faith means everything to him. If you listen to one of my shows and you can't tell that I love God more than anything else, that show needs to change. And that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned recently is, something that I'm building and I'm working on. I'm like, man, somebody could listen to that show and they could honestly think, this man does not believe in God. He's angry. He thinks he's always right. And it's not true. But I can look back on it and say, man, that's not how you talk over here and over there. That's not how you act. Why are you doing that here? And I think we can always learn when we're looking at the bigger picture. When we know who we are and we know what we stand for and we know who we serve, God, then that can help you when there's pieces of your life that don't look consistent to the other pieces. Those have been the ingredients to success. Just like ingredients on a pizza, every piece of your life should be leading to a greater part of the whole and a bigger picture that you want to be a part of. Right? Margarita pizza doesn't exist without the basil and the tomato and the fresh mozzarella and the dough. They need every single element of that to be working together to create a better, bigger picture. Right? Nobody wants a slice of margarita without a fresh mozzarella on there because it's not margarita. So nobody, in the same respect, nobody would want to see you in a different place than where they typically see you and say, man, that's Dan, but that's Dan without the mozzarella. That's Dan without a piece of himself, without an element of him. Over here, he's got these ingredients. Over here, he's got this. Margarita pizza is margarita pizza. I can't make it for these people and make it for these people, and it's different ingredients for these two people. Just like margarita pizza is margarita pizza, you need to be you, whoever you're around, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Same building, different level of clearance. These are the ingredients to success, proudly presented by Avicolli's. And today's topic, the bigger picture. Go and see Avicolli's today on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road, right down the street from Liverpool High School, and where we have our Liverpool athletics broadcasts every single month. We'll take our final step aside here on Wake Up Call, and you're going to hear the newest message from Avicolli's, which airs for the first time today. Avicolli's restaurant, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, has been serving our community for decades. Your place to go for home cooking on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road is just minutes from Liverpool High School. And every single month, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is on site, on location, with Liverpool sports, student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories throughout the year. We look forward to seeing you on site at Avicolli's for their casual pizza side, their fine dining, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Come on in to the neighborhood spot Avicolli's, open 7 days a week in Liverpool, New York. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is your home away from home for your furry-loving friends. Open 7 days a week with drop-off and pickup times in the morning and later on in the day and early evening. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is the spot to trust with your dog for short and long-term stays. Call 315-299-4013 for more information. That's 315-299-4013, and go to k9campground.com as well. That's KAMP ground.com, where you will find all of the information on their different cabins, which include the classic cabin, executive cabin, grand cabin, and luxury cabin. K9 Campground Dog Boarding, where your dog will have indoor and outdoor areas as well as their own private cabin for any size, any breed, as well as dogs with different needs. Dog parents and dogs alike choose K9 Campground Dog Boarding. Isn't that right, Lily? Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. I want to thank you for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm laughing because it's 12:12 right now, but on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com, up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe. Big time thanks to everybody that's with us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Make sure to follow and subscribe. And of course, I put up my Alexa device and showed a video of that on our social media. If you ask Alexa or your Google device to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, they will do that for you as well. And make sure you check it out because we're adding stuff to these wonderful channels all throughout the year. Big time thanks to Great Lakes Honda City, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Mon Paz, Avicolli's, Mother's Cupboard, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Pizza Man, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Brian's Landing, and also want to put a special thanks out to the Brooklyn Pickle down in North Kakalaki. See them in Southern Pines, North Carolina on 1788 Old Morganton Road. The Brooklyn Pickle partners with us with what we call in a New York Minute, inspirational pieces of knowledge and wisdom in just a minute of time. And you could find all of those on our YouTube channel as well as our social media. You'll find inspirational pieces from Brooklyn Pickle Southern Pines and awesome sandwiches, salads, and soups by going to 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. The Lemoyne College Dolphins are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Dolphins every single Wednesday during Dolphin Time at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. With student athletes, coaches, administration, alumni, future Dolphins, and more, you will find our stories on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Lemoyne playlist. You'll also find the Dolphins on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to LemoyneDolphins.com and fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find the Bobcat Buzz with student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni all throughout the year. Joining me here in the beacon of the Bobcats. You will find them on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, find the BSC Syracuse playlist. You also find the Bobcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats, and letting you know that a trio of Bobcat exclusives are going to be coming to you tomorrow between 10 and 11 a.m. Eastern Time right here on Wake Up Call with men's basketball 2 signees and head coach Clay Gagan-Sherman. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bearcats every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, like today in our feature with Levell Sanders. You'll find all of our content with Binghamton by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Binghamton Bearcats playlist. The Binghamton Bearcats are also on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. And a thanks to Levell once again for a fantastic conversation today. With that being said, I want to thank my wonderful guests inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', Deondre Francois, Levell Sanders, and of course, I want to thank Avicolli's for the ingredients to success and their new commercial that aired today. And Avicolli's topic for the ingredients to success today, the bigger picture. Go and see them every day of the week on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. On Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, you'll find us all the time on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT, wakeupcalldt.com, and of course on all of our channels, including YouTube at Wake Up Call DT. For now, from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, I want to tell you to have a wonderful day. Happy July. I hope your June was wonderful, and I hope your July is even better. Please take care of yourself, your mental health, your emotional health, your social, spiritual health. Be good to each other, your economical health, and be good to yourself. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.